Was it the best naval battle ever? Was it the best dragon battle ever? It was the best dragon plus naval battle ever. And all right, there's not been very many of those, but this sets a new bar, one that's going to be very hard to reach, let alone top. In the U.S., we celebrate Father's Day. Lord Tywin Lannister's death came on Father's Day many years ago. So this is the second time in the Game of Thrones universe that a episode has fallen on Father's Day. Fittingly, the father-son issues of Corlys and Alan are a notable part of the most memorable and epic episode that this turned out to be. And two more Lannisters died, including an actual lion on top of that. So that tradition seems to have been continued. So break open your finest bottle of Ibonese dragon water and drink deep to those who have come to die for the Dragon Queen and to those who already have, such as her son and his dragon. And we all need a drink as badly as the Hightower Queen after seeing what she went through after her son went Targaryen in the worst way possible. I'll keep this intro short so we can get to all that and more in this review of Salt and Smoke, Fire and Blood here on History of Westeros podcast. Hello and welcome back, everybody. I'm Aziz. With me here is Sean and Ashea. It is season 3 time. It is 6 o'clock Eastern on Monday if you're watching us live. That's when you can catch us if you're not watching us live and want to. In case you're new here, there's very minimal spoilers for future episodes. We really focus on just what happened. We talk about what's coming on Fridays at 5 Eastern, which is a separate live stream. And that is the whole point of separating it like that. Welcome back, Sean, our favorite co-host here that you're here during our show seasons. We had a great time talking Night of the Seven Kingdoms. And you're back. It's important to also to anybody who knows who's new here. Sean is unspoiled on Fire and Blood, so he has a different perspective. Isn't that right?
In the midst that might have spoiled something that I didn't realize.
Sean, sorry, you have to restart that. You have to restart your whole spiel. You've been muted.
Oh.
Yeah, it's go on now. You can go start. Just start over from your intro. It's fine.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, I am happy to be here, excited for this, and I am mostly unsullied. That's part of why we don't talk too much about what's going to happen, because I don't know what's going to happen. Part of the perspective that I bring. I have read the whole main series at this point, the Duck and Egg books, and large portions of World of Ice and Fire and Blood, but I've actively avoided this era. I read a little bit, after season 1 and 2 into that, but I'm scared of spoiling myself. So be careful. I try to read the chat and the comments too, so don't spoil me in there. But the one thing we might talk about is my predictions, which will be coming from a different perspective. And I also feel it's worth pointing out maybe a couple of things along this line that part of why it got mixed up in the show in the first place, 10 plus years ago, I think, is that sometimes when you've read the books, you have certain expectations, and when they don't happen, you're frustrated or disappointed, or maybe even think it's bad. I don't have those expectations. There's some things that might be a change that frustrate a lot of the audience. To me, I didn't have the expectation. I thought it was good or fine. Still sometimes I do see flaws, and I try to be candid about what I like and don't like, but another little thing about me that's maybe different than other people is I'm less excited for the spectacle. You know what I mean? Dragons are a big part of this story, and I can't deny they're cool and exciting, but I'm way more excited for insight and nuance than explosions and battles, if that makes sense.
And I think too, that's something we're going to talk about as part of this episode. I've included quite a bit about how your perspective works that way and how this is a great episode to riff off of how you've been very consistent without that through all our reviews. But I wanted to also mention about you that I think is really valuable. Something that's become relevant in this fandom over the years. It wasn't clear right away, and it applies to a lot of fandoms. Pretty much any fandom that's dealing with an adaptation. We get really stubborn with our expectations. I've noticed people still expect things to happen that happened in the book, even when it's been clear since last season that they weren't going to happen. I've seen reactions to like this first episode. It's like, why didn't that happen? Like, well, we knew it wasn't going to happen as of several episodes ago, like literally more than 2 years ago. So it's not necessarily a dig at the fandom. It's a fact. It's an aspect of the fandom. We're stubborn because we love the material so much. We cling to the notion that it could be like the books, even though it can't always be. And so, yeah, your lack of expectation in that way, it can be a real fresh perspective a lot of times. But let's get to it. Let's move forward. Let's not do too much preamble because we have a long episode here. We have a lot to talk about, and I think your qualities will make themselves more evident as we actually do the review. So let's move on and get to it. If you have questions for us, as always, hit us live. But if you're catching it later, hit us at westeroshistory@gmail.com. Tell us what you liked most or didn't like, favorite performances, Easter eggs, callbacks, all that good stuff. And of course, you can hit us up on any other social media if you want to do that. Let's start with a poll. We love to have polls, and we love to talk about certain things that we, as fans, as we get started and then sort of ease into the deep dives. The poll today, YouTube only gives us 4 choices, as always, as I like to remind you all. Best death. What does that mean? You get to decide what best means. Saddest, most satisfying, most entertaining, most brutal, all the above, what qualities they have. But we only have 4 choices, so I'm leaving out one because there's one that was ambiguous, so we'll go with the other 4. Jace, Vermax, Shirako Lohar, and we'll pair them up since the Lannister twins both died, Jason and Tyland. Pick whichever you feel, and we'll reveal the percentages at the end for fun. Sean, did you have a choice out of those 4?
I picked Jace. I'll say for one, again, not sure how it goes down in the books. It's safe to assume he and many people are gonna die. I didn't expect it in that moment. I'll say I didn't expect that moment.
Right on.
And also, and it was already kind of like, this Pyrrhic victory. And oh my God, it got even worse right there.
Oh boy.
Heroism. I'll also say you might be slightly spoiling me here by not including Corlys, because
that's why I said, and one of them was ambiguous because you don't see a body, you don't see, like they were shipwrecked. But also, yeah.
Well, what I will say is this, Sean. You see,
Tyland,
well, this is what I'll see. We saw Alan was able to take his armor off, right, relatively easily, which makes us think Corlys might be able to too. Tyland, we seemed like, if you look at him, it seems like it would be very difficult for him to take it off. But I would argue Tyland shouldn't be on here, and I don't think he's for sure dead. So we'll get into that.
I think, it's minutia, but Alan was kind of holding on. He was above the water, yanking pieces off. Corlys fell in. And the place where Tyland fell in was shallower water. It was in that little strait where the boat could barely get over.
I don't think it was shallower water. I disagree with that part, but anyway, we got to move on. Let's keep going. First half of this episode, we'll discuss the battle. The second half, we'll discuss pretty much everything else, and there is a lot. It was the 3rd longest Hot D episode so far, but the battle was probably the longest battle of maybe any episode in the Game of Thrones universe. It was 40% of the episode. It was 27 minutes, which is just, that's really long. But it also did a great job of weaving in and out of the battle and having things that were connected to the battle, people discussing it or deciding whether or not they should be there or being held out of it. And that really added to the tension and was great in terms of keeping a lot of storylines connected. But like I said, before we analyze the story in depth, let's be fans and highlight our favorite performances. Sean, here is your chance. Who is your favorite performance and why? And a little bit about that. Go for it.
I have forgotten the actress's name. I feel so bad.
Emma Darcy.
Emma Darcy. I was going to say Darcy Carton. They did so. I seem to remember picking them many times in prior episodes as my favorite. And once again, the light and enthusiasm they had, and I want to say they for the actress, but her for Rhaenyra, in the beginning with this offer from Alicent, we could avoid the whole war. I could just go into the city, and she trusts Alicent, and we kind of know it's tragic irony comes about here. But yeah, and everyone else is, maybe some combination of legitimately distrustful of Alicent and worried it's a trap, and maybe also not trusting Rhaenyra as a woman to be a leader, and add to that, they want war, they can't wait to go burn stuff down, you know what I mean? And she's like, oh, we got a chance for peace here. And they're like, no, we shouldn't do this. But she was so excited about it, kind of bowled everyone over. And then swing that around to the end when she's locked in her room by her own son in Kingsguard, just tearing that dress apart. Oh, man, it was great moments on opposite ends of the spectrums.
And you know what's kind of ironic? I realized this just as we sat down to record. I'm guessing there's a very good chance this is the episode that has the least number of lines from Rhaenyra. You know what I mean? Like, they weren't in that many scenes. It was a very impactful performance. I fully agree, but this was just so many other things happening, and she wasn't in the battle. So, yeah. Ashaya, what about your pick?
Oh, I want to give a shout out to Rhaena's Valyrian emoting when she was screaming, because I think that was, to me, the most emotive Valyrian has really been, actually, when I thought about it. Like, the fear in her voice as she screamed those words, I don't know, it really translated, so I want to shout that out. But I think I also want to say Aegon, Tom Glencarney, and his pained sweats, but it's really more of a shout out to the makeup and prosthetics team than anything, for both the prosthetic work and for how sweaty they made him. Because if anyone's had like some terrible pains and that has made you like sweat from the pain, you know what I mean?
I think it's also his addiction. I think he needs
you're right.
the poppy. It's both.
Yeah,
I think.
It's both.
Yeah.
You're right. But yeah, if you're in like a car and it's aggravating it, and so like, I felt like he disappeared into the role very well, but again, through the work of a big team, so shout out to all of them. And then I want to mention, I think, someone who, doesn't get the respect he deserves is Ulf. Ulf White. His monologue there was really moving.
I agree.
Like, he talked about being abused. He talked about how more days of his life was he suicidal, basically, and didn't want to live. I'm getting choked up just thinking about it. I thought it was really moving, but then he also had the biggest laughs for me in the episode too. So I don't know. I like him.
Just like what Sean said, these extremes, right? Yeah. Different kind of extremes, but still, they're very opposite ends of emotions. Yeah.
I think he gets more credit than he deserves. I don't like Ulf.
Well, here we have extremes of viewing Ulf too. All right, all sorts of extremes.
I'll give credit to the actor for sure, but I also can't help but point out that we go from him, kind of reflecting on his dirt poor past and struggles of a life. Doesn't stop him from being greedy. He's like, all right, where's my castle now?
So
he
it's funny.
made good points, Sean.
He does. We'll talk about that scene. I agree. There's no simplicity there. There's plenty of nuance. So my choice here, I had written in the notes Rhaena, in case no one else did, but Ashaya took care of that. I was really happy. Not just her Valyrian, but just her desperation constantly, and just that added so much to the scenes. And that's something, Sean, not in the book. So very, very, very interesting. So that was also not only really well performed, but something that was not expected necessarily. And I would also say Alan, like, I imagine when they had took auditions for this job of Alan for the role, they're like, all right, let me hear your combat command voice, because man, he is that dude's got the voice. Abu Bakr Salim nailed that. Also, like Lohar, like, she doesn't have the command voice, but her commands was clear and perfect and precise, and all sorts of different alacrity and electricity in there. It was just great. I loved all that. So shout out to Jace too for his moment of Targaryen, like, mad destiny there, where that he was more Targaryen in that moment than he's ever been, which is an irony of his identity, where people always questioned how Targaryen he was. And man, that was a very Targaryen moment. This is what our purpose has been. It's like, oh man, that was brilliant. Yeah.
Can I cheat one more in here?
All right, go for it.
A couple each. I still went picker for the episode, but a very great moment of acting was when Olivia Cook, when Alicent is being kissed by her son.
Oh yeah.
Like, what's happening here? Not only the moment when she kisses him, but the moment following when, like, I don't know, cacophony of emotions going through her, being presented on her face. That was really good.
I agree. Totally agree. I had that in parentheses here too. So there were plenty of things I got wrong from the trailers. That's a good thing. If the trailers were too easy to interpret, that would be no fun. If I could predict everything, that's not very interesting. Something's not right with the writing. I've even been wrong sometimes after expressing a lot of confidence. Yeah, surprises are good. I mean, we want a faithful adaptation, but changes are necessary. And necessary changes are where those surprises can be found. We don't necessarily have to agree with what changes are necessary or not, but nevertheless, that is where the surprises can be found, and that's where some of those qualities can be found. We don't like change for the sake of change. That's something we've said before. It's a good time to repeat that here at the beginning of the season, but sometimes we miss the point of a change because it's done way in advance. This might be the case here with some of the sheep stealer stuff. We'll have to see some more in the long run what they do with it, but I was quite pleased with Chaotic Dragon. We'll talk a bit about that more in detail, but I think that's a really good thing to add. Here are the different sections we're going to discuss. So the order is clear. We have Sheep Stealer and Rhaena, then the Battle of the Gullet, which I've divided into 4 sections. Strategies and Saris, Purpose Revealed, The Teeth and the Tides, Chaos and Revenge. And then we'll have a little section of questions, then some callbacks and references. Then we'll get into the Beasts of the Riverlands. There's multiple. Then a Song of Ice and Fire and Blood, which is a representation of the remaining plot lines, which is Aegon and Larys, Aemond and Alicent, Alicent and Helena, the Isle of Faces, and the High Tower Host. So many cool things, so many things to discuss. Let's get to it. So yeah, Sheep Stealer and Rhaena, that is where I want to begin, because that's where the episode is going to begin. That was one of my predictions that was pretty accurate, that this would be a Sheep Stealer heavy episode. Sheep Stealer being in the battle means, well, we got to see how that's going to happen. You got to do that first. I don't suppose that would be something for a flashback, so cool. Anyway, it's too bad they couldn't take a little more time with winning her winning him over rather, but it was done in a way that you can see how that might have played out over a bit of time. And I think overall, given how well they used Sheep Stealer in this episode, my criticisms would be pretty minor. I always favor book versions, of course, almost always, and this is one that, I mean, as you said, Sean, it's not always battles that are the most interesting. Often they can be the least interesting. For a straight comparison, earlier, in the intro, I talked about dragon battles, naval battles, or one that's both. One of the few examples there is Daenerys versus the Slavers. That was 3 dragons versus a fleet that had never fought dragons. That battle was boring. There was nothing that could go wrong, nothing that did go wrong. The dragons perfectly followed their mother. There was no chaos. Everything was organized. It was just kill the slavers. And that might have been cool because, yeah, kill the slavers. But we had Dany pulling the once over the maneuver on to get the Unsullied, which was a way better version of that. We had already had that. So, we've had plenty of Dany killing slavers. So that was just the opposite end. Whereas in this battle, my argument is that there was tension everywhere. There was chaos in a lot of places that escalated in a way that you would expect it to in a battle. And every participant and most non-participants had a stake, had conflict, had dilemmas, and that's awesome. So Sean, am I on the right track? Is that kind of how you felt about a lot of this too? Or am I exaggerating from your own perspective, or just tell us?
I don't think you're exaggerating. I do think that one thing you need from a battle, maybe 2 things you need from a battle, or strongly desire, there's all exceptions, but the stakes, the people involved in a result, you have to care about that, right? So that's one thing. And 2, at least for me, I'll say 2, you need to not be sure about how it's going to play out. Mm-hmm. And I guess maybe sometimes you maybe know one side is going to win, but it might come down to the way in which to win, or who dies in the meantime, or what humanity is sacrificed for the sake of the win, etc. But and then the third thing for me is I want to believe it. It's got to be realistic. If just one dude is just bulletproof running through, one-shotting everyone that looks at him just dies. You know what I mean? It's a little less believable. I think that this battle was mostly believable. For the most part, I didn't do a lot of growing and eye rolling about what was happening. I think that it was presented realistically. And on one hand, while I do agree that the stakes mattered, we had gotten developed characters that were involved, and not just involved, but like you said, people outside of it who are going to care about how it results. I personally didn't care quite as much about a lot of the characters involved here. And, to be fair, Lohar had maybe 20 minutes of screen time or something to be developed, and Corlys is a character who I've been lukewarm on. I think he's crappy in a lot of ways. They wanted to be this hero and this warrior, but also he's been a poor father and power hungry and all these other things that, but still, despite me not caring quite as much as some of these characters, whether because they're characters I didn't like that much or haven't got as much airtime, I still did care, and it was suspenseful, and I feel the action itself was well presented. A couple minor exceptions, but small enough that I didn't write the whole thing off. It was also, again, for how big it was, for how many moving pieces and all the things they had to make happen here. It's a little easier to keep this from getting boring when you have all the different types of stuff happening, and it's not just someone hacking and slashing with their sword. So.
Well said, yeah. And shout out to Ashea, who has to keep up with the twisted turns of our conversation based on what we happen to be talking about. I have a fairly organized document, but we do occasionally jump around. So yeah, back to Sheepstealer. I loved this scene, even though, like I said, my one criticism is I wish they had a little more time for it. But this episode was really long. The next episode is really long. So that's what just got to live with that.
One thing about Sheepstealer I want to say. And I might even slightly segue into something else, but they did a good job, I think, of presenting Sheepstealer as different from the other dragons. Wild specifically, but even the way they made its jaw and such. I think one point of this scene and most of the scenes with Sheepstealer and Rhaena is that Sheepstealer's different. Right? She doesn't have control. She's barely on this thing. He's not quite following her. He's accepting her, maybe befriending her, but not obeying her. Does that make sense? Yeah,
it does.
This dragon and her relationship with it are different from the other dragons and their riders.
Absolutely. And you think maybe there's some theories out there. This version of the dragon is different than the book. So these are new theories that are show only, that maybe the dragon was driven away or attacked by another dragon. There's a book canon dragon called the Cannibal that's never been ridden. That's a wild dragon that's attacked other dragons.
Active in our chat always.
Yeah. That would have maybe damaged his jaw like that, and it grew back. And we have some other comments later in the document about people in our Facebook group discussing this as well. So yeah, it really did inspire a lot of discussion, like you say, Sean, those differences. So you're right to point that out. And a lot of people have viewed those differences in different ways. It's been a great discussion point. And of course, the wildness is just, bringing a wild dragon to battle. We'll talk about that in a minute. That comes with its own
remind me to get back to that,
dangers.
Because it's something they did a really good job with. And I'll just say real quick, two things I want to point out. That when I'm watching a show or a movie or whatever, I think a lot about why are they showing us this thing, whether it's the scene or an image or a line of dialogue. Generally speaking, especially when you've got a tight story to tell and you only have so many episodes and there's a lot going on, they've got to be purposeful with everything they show us. There's got to be some reason. And I think that's a thing that's being shown specifically, except for the point of these scenes to show it's wild. And I'll also say that, I rewatched the other seasons leading up to this. And sometimes the context, you might, if it's been a year since you watched season 2 or more, or whatever, then you might forget that Rhaena's struggle in the wilderness has been going on for a minute. You know what I mean? We kind of picked up with it here, but it was going on before too. And there's a lot of things like that I'll tell you, everyone, I guess a lot of our audience has rewatched it multiple times, hopefully recently leading up to this. But there's certain framing and context and setup, segues, ironies or whatever that you might lose from episode to episode or season to season with big breaks. But I've been watching it all over the past few days, and it's really great. I mean, I'll tell you, this show is really beautifully done.
Hell yeah. Yeah, I noticed that too. Some of the really wide vista shots, especially over the battle, the horizons. And the season 2 ended with that. The actual last shot was Alicent under the big wide open sky, which is what she said she wanted to experience and feel freedom under that. So this is not nearly the first flight flight we see, meaning someone flying on a dragon for the first time, that dragon being even flown for the first time. Dany on Drogon and Daznak's pit, of which there's a lot of parallels to Dany and Drogon early on there, a lot. More on that later. Aemond at Driftmark. He didn't really have control that first time either. Those dragons were less wild than Sheepstealer, but they were at least a little bit wild. So that first time is something we've seen a few of, and it's interesting to make those comparisons. This isn't even the first time we've seen a dragon far from where it was born or living far from civilization. Both those are the case with Dany and Drogon living way out in the Dothraki Sea, because Drogon was born in the Dothraki Sea, but he was living in a different spot from that. Also eating burnt horse flesh. Dany did that high up on a mountain. She called it Dragon Mount. I don't know if Rhaena gave this spot a nickname. I don't know if she was there long enough for that, but for all we know, she's getting it back there. Something else to talk about later. It's kind of neat. My headcanon, Sheepstealer's treating her like a hatchling because he smells the dragon blood in her, and that's why he's feeding her like a baby bird, regurgitating sheep vomiter there. That's his nickname. That's what she could have called him, sheep vomiter, but hell. Anyway.
It was also just like how our cats will bring us something to contribute to dinner sometimes.
You're a shit hunter, Rhaena.
Yeah.
You need some. I like like you said, Ashay. No one used Valyrian with as much emotion, but she also tried various things, right? She's like, well, does this dragon? And I think he was responding to some of the commands, which that's part of why I think he was raised at Dragonstone, but then flew away at some point. Became wild, but not right away. There was some rearing, and he remembers some of that. We'll have some more to say about this later, but yeah, I think that seems like a slam dunk to me. Otherwise, yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
Wouldn't know any of these words. So you have to think that this was a dragon trained at Dragonstone briefly by the Dragon Keepers and just escaped, ran away from its awful big brother, the cannibal, right?
And it had to have been born on Dragonstone. There's no doubt about that. Or almost no doubt about that. So that makes a lot of sense. So there's one very humorous moment here, at least. It may not have seemed humorous at the time, but Ashay and I found it hilarious, which is when she starts to sing that song, the same song that Daemon sang to Vermithor that had him like lighting his candle like he was at a rock show, Vermithor loved that song. Sheepstealer, the second she started that song, he turned at her and did the, brah, shut up. I hate that song. It's like, so y'all put in the comments, what song would have you reacting like Sheepstealer?
Turn that off.
Turn that damn
Stop
thing
that.
off. What song would have you roar like Sheepstealer? And what song, if you prefer, what song would have you roast some lamb for your friend instead? So the opposite. We're doing extremes today, right? So what's the opposite end of that? Anyway, let's move on. Actual Battle of the Gullet. Let's get to that. I think there's a case to be made that this was the best ever battle of scale on screen. And I say of scale because I'm deliberately omitting things like Dunk's Trial of 7 because it was great, but it's single POV. And it's mostly a series of duels or 2-on-1s. That's not really of scale. That's about as small as a battle gets other than 1-on-1s. And, you can make your own lines in the sand, draw your own categorizations. But this is, to me, the number of participants, especially when we're telling a story that focuses on characters, is the big dividing line. Now, the more
you also, when you say of scale, get the illusion to dragon scale. So that's a good wordplay.
Yeah. Now, what makes it harder, the more scale you add, the harder it is to get those individual perspectives and for those individuals to matter. You often end up with what Sean first named as the thing that's very ubiquitous in Hollywood and very boring, which is the guy that just one-shots everybody. That's what often you end up with when you just add too many people into the mix. They didn't do that here. There was pretty much no one-shotting by people. There was maybe one-shot here and there, but it wasn't a, continuous thing. So it's harder to do that. That's the thing that was very impressive to me about this battle is they tied so many people's interests and dangers together in one place. The more moving parts you have, quite literally, the bigger the battle gets and the harder it is to manage and make it cohesive. And I felt that not only did they do a great job with the whole, but it moved from place to place. Like the pacing was really excellent. I thought the way it changed scenes and how it transitioned from scene to scene was particularly strong. So yeah, that's something I think was very well done. Now, if we continue to the comparison to the Battle of Meereen, which I thought was not a very good battle, if you take that and compare it to here, you have even fewer characters in that battle that had a stake in it. There was nobody, literally no one on the slaver side that had like a name that mattered or a developed character of more than an episode or two. Like, I can't remember, this is what I do for a living. I can't remember any of those guys' names in that final scene. Like, I know who the other slavers were, the big names in the books, but like, who the heck were those guys? Nobody cared. They were forgotten like by the next episode. You leave Dario Naharis in charge when you leave. I mean, this is all not this is a different thing we're dealing with here. So this is, to me, the extreme opposite, and I just want to really hammer that point home. In this battle, everyone had conflict, whether it was people on the same ship with each other, Alan and Corlys with a personal conflict, or Lohar slowly revealing her treachery to really both sides of the deal. She screwed over her own allies too with this, except for her closest friends who were on this same revenge kick. But that was done really well too, because I thought that these conversations had sufficient overlap that you could see how these strategies were viewed by the other side. Like Corlys would say, he realized that it was Lohar, and he immediately realized that she would want revenge. And so he immediately realized that he could use that to his advantage. And he immediately used that to lure her away, which was to further his strategy of keeping chaos in the general battlefield so that the dragons could pick off straggling ships rather than having them get close together. That's the first thing Tylan said when they were approaching the inlet. He's like, we cannot have the ships spread out. We got to get really close together. And when that moment happens, Lohar is peeling an apple. The sign, the one of the biggest TV movie signs of villainy afoot. She's peeling an apple.
Villainy and being too blasé.
Yeah, that too. You're right. Very too single-minded, perhaps.
I've forgotten the detail, but before that moment, he did even have another, I don't know, strategic move, or maybe tactical move is a better word for it. And I've forgotten what it was, but he wanted to move the fleet in some direction, and even explained his logic behind it. And Lohar was like, yeah, that's pretty smart. I see why they made you master of ships. Now she has a different plan, so she's not going along with it. But I appreciated that moment of building Tylan up a little bit. Like he's mostly just been like a butt of jokes at council meetings. He hasn't had that many, through the series for the most part. He hasn't had that many lines or much screen time. They gave him a little agency with that last episode last season when he went to meet with the Triarchy, and he has to wrestle her, and he wins her over and everything. But then they showed his competence as a sailor in this moment too. And I wish some of that had happened sooner, so I cared more about him. Does that make sense? But,
yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, because his competence was kind of out of nowhere. It was appreciated, but like you said, it wasn't something we knew was there.
Yeah. But it did make me care more when she threw him overboard. It's like, oh no, this guy has value. You know what I mean? And he also hasn't been quite as villainous as some other people. He just happens to be on the villain side, if that makes sense, right?
It definitely does. There's a lot of people that fall into that category.
Right. And maybe you could question whether it is villainous to be on the villain side, but it's extra understandable too when the alternative might be death. Like, imagine if he's like, you know what, I'm going to leave the small council because I don't like what's going on here. Westerland, is that the Kingsguard commander?
Well, yeah, Harold Westerling.
He kind of got away with that because he is a freaking knight full of armor and a sword, right? But Tylan can't do that. When Beesbury said, hey, I don't like what's going on, smashed his head and killed her, you know what I mean? Like, Tylan's a little stuck in this scenario.
I agree. And he has no idea. He has no idea what her real goal was. You're right. Like, he's competent, but he was maybe also blind to like the greater like political leanings and people's feelings about things, I suppose. Right.
So anyway, I wish that I cared more about him. I saw there was something to care about. But I don't try and not be too negative here, but I'm pointing out, despite a full lack of character development, I was still like, oh no, he got thrown overboard.
Yeah, I agree with you there. Like, he wasn't the most developed, but there was just even the characters like him that maybe didn't matter as much had conflict surrounding them that you could feel that made sense, that was consistent, whether it's Sir Lawrence unsure about whose commands to follow, or Bela's choice to, like, she kept looking back and like, what do I do? Lohar's revenge, and how Tylan is gonna manage his way through that. He's like, well, we can still do this intelligently. Once he adapts to the fact that this is a revenge plan. That doesn't mean we have to sail into his trap, though.
Yeah, exactly.
And then Rhaena trying to kill a sheep stealer. Like Jace realizes that it's Rhaena. The familial conflict between Corlys and Alan. Yeah, just
that. Sir Lawrence examples are really great when we're going a little bit of tangent here, but yeah, his character's hardly had 10 lines, but you felt his dilemma. You know what I mean?
And he has been around since the early parts of the show. So he gets a little bit of that too. And then even Allison gave Aemond a difficult choice there. He had his mindset and she worked to change it, and which is, yeah. So let's get to the specifics. We're so excited to be talking about the show again. So happy that the first episode was good. That, yeah, it is hard to stay analysts and not drift into fan mode, but we'll try to do a lot of both and be fanalists. So yeah, I divided the battle into 4 parts. We've discussed a lot of the first part already, which is the setting up, the conversations, the strategy. The attack begins, but we don't actually see the beginning of the attack. We don't really see it until Bela and Jace join the battle, and we really start to see it.
Base.
Yeah, the base. That was their ship name. And then we go to that. So there's that phase, which is where the kind of you see that they're losing, but the dragons kind of even things out. And then you see the anti-dragon measures, which is really interesting. And then you get the chase through the straits, which is a kind of its own section, quite literally. And then Sheepstealer arrives for phase 4, which while the 2 ships are locked in a boarding party battle. So double climax there, which I found very effective. So yeah, let's get into deeper dives on these specific phases of the battle. Alan and Corlys, they have this discussion. They have their drink over Ibish dragon water. It looks like things are getting a little bit better. If you watch the end of last season 8 episode, or season 2 episode 8, Alan is very just rigid about it. He is not open to this, and he's a little more open to it here. The discussion is a little friendlier. A little bit of his guard is just a little bit. There's a bit more of a mending of the breach, as Corlys puts it. It's never going to be fully mended, but this looks like a little bit of progress. But then battle interrupts them, and it's really neat how there's 2 people on both sides as our POV for the battle, and their exchange of orders and or arguments. Mostly in the case of Jason and Lohar, there's no arguments for Alan and Corlys, just some, are you sure? Okay, yeah, that kind of thing. The 2 work together really well, 2 are at odds, and that is a great comparison and a great back and forth.
Can I tell you another thing? Rewatching the old seasons, there was a scene where I think it was Bela was coming on Rhaenyra's behalf to ask Corlys to be hand, and he responds by offering her to be his heir. It's been like this conflict and this struggle, something Rhaenys has wanted him to name, and he offers it to her, and she's like, I'm fire and blood. Your heir needs to be of salt and sea. And then later on, it might have even been another episode, I'm pretty sure, Corlys is talking to Alan, and I wish I could remember the context. It might have even been about Adam getting a dragon, and I think Corlys was suggesting to Alan, hey, maybe you could get a dragon too, And Alan's like, nah, I'm salt and sea. That's all I crave for. And I don't even remember at that time if it seems so obvious to me as it does now that, obviously Corlys is going to name Alan. It's less obvious to me now that either of them are going to survive for that to happen. But I feel like I thought it might be about to happen as they were drinking wine there, but it got cut short.
Yeah, I mean, I see what you're saying too, because
I would not call that wine.
Yeah. He said, because that was the thing he most said. He's like, a life maybe, but not a name. Right. So he even directly referred to that as maybe the thing that mattered to him most out of all the things that he had just rattled off that he didn't have. So that's important. Now, but the attack happens. Meanwhile, I thought this was really excellent how they wove in Rhaenyra's plans for King's Landing. As you said, Sean, she knows she's right because we know she's right, rather. Maybe she shouldn't know she's right. And it's an interesting question. What do you mean by trust? Nobody thinks they should trust Alicent, but I think there's 2 versions of trust here to be considered. One is do you just believe her outright? Is she telling you the truth? The other is, can she actually pull it off? Can you trust her to actually make that happen? Because that's two different things. And I think there you apply the word trust to both of them. Now, we know that the first, yeah, she definitely intends it. The second, well, as soon as she gets back to King's Landing, it's, as we'll talk about, like literally things have flip-flopped in terms of what her expectations were. But it has a narrative effect of making Rhaenyra look naive. It's like, how the hell can you believe her? She's asking for almost nothing, and she's just giving you her son. This is too good to believe. It does sound too good to be true. It really does. And this fuels Jace's feeling that she's a danger to herself. I like that it wasn't just one thing that Jace is reacting to. He sees a pattern of her putting herself in danger, of her not catching the opponent's attempts to trap her. He's thinking of Rook's Rest. He's thinking of, well, this just seems too good to be true. It's got to be a trap. And then when they're talking about it, the Triarchy shows up, and Jason's like, see, this is part of their trap. Like, I saw it coming, and you're still not listening to me. So I really appreciate how much frustration was built up in Jace, all related to his own mother's safety, and how she just wasn't listening. And they both had very good reasons to believe what they believed.
Yeah, I mean, I liked what Emma Darcy had to say about this, which was that it's this control in the guise of protection, which is very frustrating. And it has its most, good intentions with Jace. It's different from like just pure control, but it is just like, let her make her decision. If she wants to die for this, let her. Then you're king. I think it is very frustrating to Rhaenyra as much as it's a good conflict, because it's not like a hateful quality that Jace has, right? He expresses how upset he is that his brother was killed. He can't lose his mom. So yeah, it's a good conflict. He feels like he's more expendable than she is, and that's not the worst point. He's not necessarily wrong. Like, she has other sons, like
in addition to everything you're saying, one thing is, what this does is it shows the uniqueness of knowledge, like the knowledge that one person can have that other people don't have, and it makes it hard for them to understand why they're making a decision. Like, we understand why and even think she should trust Alicent, but that doesn't mean everyone else should. They don't have the relationship or that conversation or whatever else. Also, really adding to what you were saying, Shay, about how this being a good conflict, much like many of the conflicts in this whole thing, there's a lot of hypocrisy involved. There's a lot of self-centeredness. Like, Jace is so frustrated. All the other things are true, right? He is worried about her getting hurt, but he has been going through this frustration of not being allowed to take part in combat. She has been going through this frustration of not being allowed to take part in combat. Like, they've both been feeling this way and doing this to each other. You know what I mean?
Although she's felt
totally,
it long,
yeah.
She's being forced into it.
I think she's felt this,
like,
right?
I guess you're right, but
she's felt this since she was a teenager, wouldn't you say? Like,
yeah, she's felt it longer.
When young Millie Alcock Rhaenyra was raring to get involved and not allowed. So it's her turn. It's not Jace's turn.
Yeah, it is. And it's true. Like, if Aegon can go into battle and get messed up, then so be it. If Aemond is going to go into battle, then yeah, let her go too. Yeah, I agree. I get why they're trying to protect her, and I get why they're believe that she's a danger to herself, but they would never have locked Aemond up. They would never lock Aegon. That just wouldn't happen. So, like, you could see, and she knows that, and that's frustrating her too.
There is one other little factor here, is that Rhaenyra is a little bit more specifically important, I don't know, to the cause or whatever, than any of these other people. If Aegon dies, Aemon's the next heir. It's clear, right? If Jace dies, Rhaenyra is still queen and can have other sons or has a da-da-da. But the argument here is the vow that people made to Rhaenyra specifically. Viserys said, Rhaenyra is my heir, and had all the lords bow to her. If she dies, they can say, we didn't bow to her son. We didn't bow to, no, we're just going back to Aegon or Aemon or whoever else.
That's a reasonable point. Yeah, sure. Yeah.
A little more important than the other people.
Yeah, because some lords would...
Shouldn't fly out there. I don't know, but
yeah, true. Some lords would look at it as the letter of the law, like you say, of their vow, the specific vow to the specific person, not to that branch of the family necessarily. So that's a very good point. So let's move on to the phase two. Lohar reveals to Lannister that all along it's the sea snake she wants. This was her apple peeling moment. Lannister wants them to lead a coordinated assault. She sends a detachment to attack High Tide to destroy. This is somewhat personal, but she also expects it to affect his ability to command. And she turns out to be right about that. So a good read on her opponent there. It's also amusing that they're both talking about this who's king at the time, helping win Aegon's war, when in fact Aegon is supposedly, quote unquote, abdicated, according to Aemond. And they're both gonna die before finding out the actual truth there. So, yeah. Lohar has some real Red Viper vibes here. She's just so eager for revenge and wants to savor it. There's that line, you know, the sea snake scouts have sighted us or whatever and raised the alarm. And she says, if only to see his face. She just wants him to suffer. And that's so it's a very telling line that that's if only to see his face. It's like, ooh, she is locked in. Like, this is a big deal. You
know what she compared it, what Abigail Thorne compared it to in an interview was Captain Ahab and Moby Dick. She said she watched every version of Moby Dick. Every single one she could get her hands on to prepare for this role.
So the white whale is a sea snake with white hair. That's, it's not too far off.
I will say one interesting little bit there is I'm going to say two, actually. She is still angling to mesh her vengeance with her contract. When she makes the point to Tylan, like, do you think Corlys will still be focused when he sees the monument to himself burning down? Like, you'll appreciate his castle being burned, right? That Tylan's like, all right, fine. Not that you can do anything about it anyway. Also, when she wanted to see him, the look in his face, I think he had a different look than she expected. I think Corlys has matured a little because his response was, okay, let's go this way and she'll follow us. Not like, I can't wait to get revenge, or I'm scared. He was like, let her come at me. It'll be better for the cause overall. You know, I think he's matured as a leader, you know.
And I think that's a really important theme throughout the episode is Alan gets to see his father in action, and that is part of what changes his opinion of him. Maybe not fully, but it helps a lot. Like, there's the moment where when Corlys actually goes into the water, he doesn't go, Lord Admiral. He yells, father, you know, and that I don't remember that he called him that to his face before.
Yeah, I feel bad I didn't even catch that. That's pretty big, actually, I think.
Yeah, so that's a great piece of like in battle conflict, stakes, and character development during the action.
Here.
Yeah, that's the moment.
I just want to shout out too about Abu's performance here. You see, this is when he yells "father," and then this is his face after.
Because I want to talk about that because it's beautiful in the sense that it's a cycle of revenge. All of a sudden, the target of revenge becomes Lohar instead of the person trying to get revenge, and all of a sudden, the motivation, the energy, the fire for revenge shifts from Lohar to Alan, and that's ultimately her undoing, which is great. So I guess that was kind of the whole thing. I don't have any more to say about that, but we'll get to that in time and come back to that. You guys can comment on that. So this is when Dragonstone gets word. This is when they find out that battle is happening, and Baela gets the message. She's our POV, walking it to the council, walking very quickly. The music is very tense. A little bit of time to build up as she's walking carrying the message into the hall. Jace was already
been on scouting duty. That's been her job, is to be a scout. Right? Is to just patrol, fly around, and check.
Well, I'm not sure if she saw it on scouting duty or if it was a raven, because Corlys said he was sending a raven to Dragonstone to let them know the battle had started.
That's true. You're right. She arrives off of her dragon to Dragonstone, which makes it seem like she saw it before the raven was even there.
So the raven may have gotten there after.
Look like her riding leathers, and her hair's a little.
She's already been riding. Yeah, you're right. That it was probably both. But I mean, she probably came back before the letter. So anyway, so this is where the scene about. Our earlier conversation about Jace already being wary. This makes him even more wary. Already makes him think of Rook's Rest even more so. And of course, this is when Rhaenyra gets locked up. Jace doesn't exactly bring Sir Lawrence along easily. But he does it cunningly. Brings up his vows. Like, your vow included protecting her from herself. And he's been in the room for all these conversations where the accusations of her being naive about the dangers of trusting Alicent, this other stuff. So he's torn. He can't be sure she's right, given all these objections of all these other smart people. He's a Kingsguard. It's not his job to be a strategist. He can't make clear sense of this. He's so very cleverly, like I said, Jace hones in on the thing that he thinks is going to work best, the thing that's going to Sir Lorne's going to care about the most. Your vow is to keep her alive, right? Right? Yes, and it works. It doesn't necessarily sell him like rah. You could tell we discussed his acting. Great job of looking uncertain, but he is moved just enough to do the job.
What do you think Rhaenyra's reaction is to this? Because, like, she can't afford to lose a Kingsguard, but he expressly disobeyed her, and it led to her son dying.
I'll weigh in on the preview episode, but Sean, what do you think?
I mean, what if she had died? And would he be or felt responsible for that happening?
Is that what he's going to say to her? I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know, man.
I even wondered for a moment when Jay said, your life for hers. I thought there might be a little implication that he might be executed for this.
I think so.
But you have to do it anyway. Jason's saying you have to do this anyway. It's your job. Even if it means your life, the whole thing is you've got to be willing to give your life for her. That's what I'm asking her to do right now.
I really love Bela's composure here, too. She repeals to Jay. She speaks to him plainly. Rescind your command. This is treason. He's like, well, she just won't let me do my thing. And he's like, so you go to war with her? Because she won't let you go to war. You go to war with her? Like, it's a very concise argument, very cutting. But then Jace, this is that scene I loved so much. He becomes very Targaryen. He turns the tide on her by making it about destiny. It's not about treason. He basically invokes a higher purpose. He basically levels it up. He says, nah, this is why we're here. This is our purpose. And his eyes get a little bit mad, just a little bit crazy. I love it. It's perfectly. Now, I don't think this is what worked on Bela. It worked on him. This is what worked in his own mind to move him. Bela isn't movable like that. We've seen her. She's even though she's a dragon rider, she is grounded. She's logical. She's rational. So she still had to decide. She looked back. She looked this way. She looked this way. She looked that. She's like, I'm not going to abandon my husband. I'm not going to let him go out by myself. Like, that's the worst. The lesser of two evils is to go out here and help him, or betrothed,
I think
not
what
husband.
was going on in her mind is that he's going one way or the other. I can't stop him. I need to go protect him.
Yeah,
he doesn't
you're
know what
right.
He's doing. I need to back him up. Like, I can't stop him from doing this, so I better go along and help.
And I think the line that finally sold her or really helped to sell her, it wasn't the whole, like, this is our purpose thing. I don't think that moved her at all. I think it was we're ready. Because she's wanted to be ready. She's wanted to do, that's for sure. She's wanted to go out there and fight just like the other two. She wants to fight as badly as Rhaenyra and Jace do. Like, she's just a little bit lower rank, so she doesn't get to get in there with those arguments as much. And she's just maybe a little more patient about it. So yeah, like you said, what else is she going to do? Just leave him to go alone? Like, that's way worse. And so that's just what we see. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Prior season when she was tasked with scouting, and she spotted what ended up being Kristen Cole and Gwen. Gwen was like leaving a party, go to an inn or whatever. Cole saw the dragon. She came swooping down, chased him. She reported back that she saw Kristen Cole. And they were like, are you sure? You could tell it was Kristen Cole from such a great distance? She's like, well, it wasn't that great a distance.
She's like, wait, how close did you get?
She was kind of a little overeager. She's supposed to stay at a distance and scout.
Good point.
Just your point about her maybe being ready for action right now. She's been scouting for a long time. Let me get in there.
So they fly to the battle, and it's as Rhaenyra is banging on the door, cursing them, that we see the battle begin as they fly in and they start to turn the tide. We even get Alan grin briefly at Corley. He's like, oh, hey, all right, that's cool. All right, excellent. And then Lohar takes a shot at Vermax. I love the little detail here. The little sights on the harpoon have dragon wings. Like, that was really cool. And she hits him and yells, call me Lohar Dragonslayer, which is a great line because you didn't know what was going to happen there. We book readers were expecting Jace to go down, and so that could have been it right there. I even predicted in the preview episode that they would change it from nobody crossbowman to Lohar because there was the only named villainous character on the other side, and something that's a simplicity move that shows do sometimes, like to just make the villain the most responsible for the worst thing that happens. But they, to their credit, they not only didn't do that, but they used that expectation to make it to set up more expectations, to show us this tool. That ballista anchor thing that's a really cool anti-dragon device. Like
the grapnel.
A grapnel with attached to the anchor, and the anti-dragon device cutting the rope was a cool anti strategy. Now, good luck using that on like a Vagar or whatever. Like Vagar could just be hauling several of those around and be like, I feel slightly heavier. I feel bloated today. Maybe I ate too many sheep. So, and this
I want to say one thing, by the way.
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I'm not so sure they cut the rope. I'm not so sure that would even work. That first one, I'm almost positive, someone can back me up or counter me. I don't think it actually pierced the dragon.
No, it didn't.
Caught in the saddle.
Yeah.
I think it was caught in the
I
saddle.
have it on screen right now, Sean. It definitely only caught the saddle, but that's why it worked, because the dragon's not hurt, so all they had to do was cut the rope and Vermax is free.
Well, I'm thinking that it yanked the harpoon back out of the saddle rather than cut the rope itself.
No, you can see the rope break. You can see the rope break.
You see the rope break.
Yeah, you can see the rope break.
Yeah, your Moon Dancer just flies through it.
Now, I believe that in a second, because that's a rope, which, yeah, sure, that's hard to pierce. But, Sean, I've once drove my car into one of those road signs, and it was ripped in half, like a speed limit sign. The bar was completely torn in half. And this dragon was going faster than my car was, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I don't necessarily disbelieve it.
Okay, my God. All right, cool.
I wasn't sure what happened there. But.
Gotcha. So that was very effective that they fooled book readers while also adding tension to people who've never seen this before and all that stuff. So a little more on this later, but this portion of the battle, we kind of move past it while Rhaenyra starts bashing on the door and... Not bashing the door, so tearing at her dress with a knife and giving herself splinters. That's something we didn't catch till very near the end here. I thought she was picking at her fingers like sort of like an Allison thing, like channeling her best friend there. But no, she had splinters that's how hard she was going at it.
Yeah, she's got all these, bloody knuckles on your hands.
Or even trying to tear the fabric might have ripped her skin too.
No, this was before the fabric. If you see, this is this is after she beat on the door, and then she gives her little.
Oh, it was before the fabric.
Yeah, it's before the fabric, and then she gives her little monologue where she quotes Elizabeth I, and then she tears the dress apart. Well, cuts it and then tears it, right?
Yeah. Right on. Yeah. So a little more on some of those details later, but yeah, so the correct order there is she's sitting there after having beaten on the door and made her knuckles bloody. Then Mysaria says, they're just trying to protect you. And that sets her off even more. And she cuts up the dress. And Myzaria's reaction is she does that thing. You see it in comedy sometimes where someone's like, they want to say something and they're like, there's nothing I can say. I'm just gonna, but they're the POV, the person who's like, what do I do here? This person's having a total meltdown. Like, So, but this is something I predicted as well, that Myzaria's POV is really important because Daemon's off at war. They're going to be reunited. We know that from the trailers, but they're not for a hugely long time necessarily, and probably not. So it's going to be Mysaria who is going to be the window into Rhaenyra's how she deals with a lot of these things, the things she says when no one else is around, her ranting, her paranoia, whatever else, justified or not. Usually it is, but not always.
Maybe, I don't know how it's going exactly, but maybe not just a window into it, but a guide through it. Mysaria might coach her.
Yes, someone who makes it worse, better. It's a little of both. Yeah, absolutely. That's going to, there's a lot of opportunity and potential for that.
You remember she did tell her one time when Rhaenyra pretty sure it was last season, had picked up a sword and we're just contemplating, like, I guess we are going to have to go to war. And she was just thinking about, the idea of wielding a sword. And Mysaria is like, it suits you. She's like, go with that sword. And at that moment, Rhaenyra put the sword down. She's like, no, I don't want this, but coming around maybe.
Next, we have Phase 3, the Teeth and the Tides. Burning masts, wide open seas, and lots of shooting at each other fades into these these underwater shots and these narrow mountain passes on either side of them. It's apparently not such a dangerous place to sail when the tide is up, but definitively it is not at this point. And this is a place that Corlys is extremely familiar with. He grew up sailing this place, and you really see that. He really uses home field advantage quite well. And this is when you see Lohar's confidence start to crack. She's like, well, we're fine here, we'll follow him. We'll just do what he does. But she doesn't say it with confidence. She says, the sea snake will guide us. And she says it kind of quickly and tersely. And it's definitely good acting because you can feel her confidence waning when she says that. She's like, yeah, but this guy's really competent. He knows what he's doing. Anyway, this is also when she reveals that it's not just revenge she wants, but that she's wanted it for 20 years and that her men want it too, that a lot of her men are in on this revenge plot. So that helped instead of taking King's Landing, so many of her men are right there with her because they also hate this guy. And she's, of course, filled their minds with the lure of taking all his treasures, which he has a lot of. He's accumulated a lot of wealth, so they like that idea too. It's been established that keeping the ships close together is great for the Triarchy, and keeping them separate is great for the Valarians because of the whole dragon singling them out thing. And this fits with that plan beautifully. He was already trying to do that. He was already signaling his ships to stay apart. Now, by sailing away from everybody, the two leaders are not there. So the two fleets are, each individual captain on each individual ship has to make decisions rather than waiting for commands, signals from the flagship. Which is, by the way, why it's called a flagship, because they put up different flags as different signals to tell everybody else what to do. So it's a double whammy. It creates a trap for Lohar, and it furthers their strategy of keeping the ship separate.
I love seeing Corlys be like, no, let me take the wheel. Give me the controller. Give me the remote, That
was a great moment. Let me tell you how
I should have done that sooner. I can't believe you even gave that guy a chance.
Yeah, he wants his employee to do his job, but yeah, it was like the very gentle, like we've seen this in other shows where someone's just like, I'm trying to like tell you as nicely as possible to move the hell out of the way, But I watched that scene. I've seen the episode 4 times now. The 4th time I watched it, I finally remembered to watch the other guy's face instead of Corlys's face, and he was freaking terrified. So
he's like, please do this.
He's like, gladly, sir.
I'm totally getting blamed if this ship crashes. I totally don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, I didn't sail this channel repeatedly as a child for fun. I didn't have my own ship when I was 8. I don't come from a family of people who've been sailing for centuries. Yeah, go ahead. So
I loved seeing this moment with Alan where he, like, you can see Corlys being raised in his estimation.
The respect.
He has earned his respect right here, seeing him do this. Like, yeah, I love that they cut down to him looking up at him.
Yeah, that's a moment of like, all right, some of this at least is earned. Some of his reputation at least is earned. That's what I got out of that. It's like he's got the title. He's done some things, but like, how good is he really? Like, he's never seen him in battle before. His dad, they have been together for a while. He's been in his Navy for a while, but they haven't had any kind of action like this before.
Well, didn't he pull him out of the water when he was wounded?
Oh, you're right. They've had other. I'm sorry, you're right. They've had other fights in the Stepstones. I'm just wrong about that. I'm remembering it incorrectly. But this, I don't know that he's ever seen him steer like this. So we'll just reduce it to that, which he clearly was in awe of. So yeah,
you still might be kind of right. Like, Alan might have been on a different ship and didn't see the combat and then just got his dad out of the water. I don't know the details, but
he has been promoted somewhat recently. So yeah, like I think that saving him, I believe, is what got him the promotion. In fact, if I remember right, but maybe I remember that wrong too. Anyway, Alan is a great officer too, so he really does value competence, and that's part of why he rose. So he certainly, there's that old phrase, "Seeing is believing." Well, this is more than that. This is experiencing is knowing. Yeah, it's because he's not only seeing it, which we can be impressed by. This is a fellow sailor who knows what it takes to do that on a much deeper level than just, hey, that's impressive. Like, it's one thing to see an impressive athlete do something really athletic. It's another thing when the other athletes that do that same thing are impressed. So that's what this was.
I loved all the underwater shots we got in this episode.
It added a lot, yeah.
Of course, of the ships, which added such tension. You're like, whoa, that's close. That is very, But you also see the underwater shot, of course, of Jace and Vermax. There was a couple of really great ones.
So the dragons are pretty far from these 4 ships navigating through the narrow pass here. So the danger of burning to death is replaced by that. They show us what the danger is replaced by, which is drowning. A danger that quite a few don't evade. All the Lannisters, for example. That was really something. Yeah, I didn't see that coming. That was pretty brutal. And very villainous. Just they got used 100% of the way for their, like, she even had him impregnate her wives. Like,
he will live on.
She used him in every way possible. Squeezed him for every little bit of Lannister, whether it's his gold, his strategic advice, his political capital, or his semen. His semen.
He did. She got all these. Yeah, she got all of these sailors. That's what I mean.
And she warned him. She told him he'd regret all that kit if he ended up in the drink. And he's like, my strategy is expressly not to end up in the drink. And whoops.
Yeah, I'll say I really liked Sharako last season. I was really excited to see this back and forth between her and Thailand. I was like, one of the things I was excited about this season. To have it just kind of done for was a bummer to me. But I have mixed feelings about this because I think it made Sharako into like this incredible villain. Like, I was very frustrated with someone who would be such a double crosser as this, had no honor really at all, and it just, I hated her.
They call the Triarchy pirates.
Yeah.
I mean,
I hated her for
right.
this, you know? And I was all ready to like her, and I was excited to see more of Thailand, and we haven't seen a body. It seemed like it would be very hard to take that armor off. I'm leaving a 10% chance that he's not dead. I feel like he's dead, but I don't know. Made the viewers, I think, hate this character. You know, I think it was effective.
Yep, I agree with that. Well said.
One other nuanced thing, when Thailand was trying to win her over and they had to wrestle in the mud, she's like, I won't follow someone that can't best me, you know. And he, if not best her, at least it's a good match, a stalemate in the end. And she's like, all right, you know, I'll accept you. We'll do your deal. I'll sail with you. And after dinner, though, have you ever feasted on your enemy's flesh? And he's like stunned by this. They're all muddied up. And he's like, no, I haven't. And I wouldn't. And she's, whoa. Are you going to refuse the hospitality of my house? And he's like, he just doesn't know what to say or what to do. And he's kind of surrounded by all her, you know, captains and shipmates. And then, she lets out a chuckle and everyone starts laughing. The jest. So then here, though, she tells her crew, tonight we'll feast on the sea snake's ears.
And they're cheering.
It wasn't a jest.
It was not actual cannibal Sharako Lohar. Yes, I caught that too. That was hilarious. Yes. She goes, what kind of a man what kind of a person do you take me for or whatever? Like, she's laughing like cannibal. Come on, get out of here. Yep. I wanted to eat his ears. Jeez. Yeah. That was another one of her mistakes though. Snakes don't have ears. Okay. So
not when she's done with them.
Phase 4, Chaos and Revenge. Yeah. So what's funny is I made a couple of wrong predictions based on seeing blood on the faces of both Lohar and Thailand, forgetting that they both bruised each other's faces in the wrestling match. So some of that was just from their stuff. They were actually still sailing into combat. Hadn't started yet, but whatever. Anyway. They did get progressively more bloody, so some of those, like that one, clearly she was in combat by then. You know, the fresh wound on her forehead and that intense look. So, we've seen the phrase the deck was slick with blood a few times. Here we get to see it for just a second. It's really neat how this plays out. They emerge from the trap, the dragon's teeth, whatever they call it, Dragonstone Pass, and they think they've left Lohar behind. And well, Lohar is just impartial partly because she's so ruthless about it and throws all the Lannisters overboard and everything else of weight. Her pursuit of revenge doesn't get her killed because she's so skilled and ruthless. But that enables them to get another shot at catching up Corlys because the Queen Who Never Was is not as fast a ship, and it's timed so nicely, so beautifully, so epically. As soon as they emerge, they're shouting more orders. Corlys is like, let's get back to the fight. And then he turns to his left and he sees high tide burning. And it's been long enough that Lohar mentioned it, and there's been so much action and the pacing is so good that I think a lot of us kind of forgot that was even a thing, at least temporarily. And then there it is again. And all of a sudden, the value of that strategy comes to play. She set a trap for him, and it happens right after he sets a trap for her. So I think that's really cool. She emerges from his trap just as he falls into hers. And there's this great shot where he is just mesmerized in the worst possible way while everyone else is going on the other side of the ship to prepare. Alan yells, "She's not turning," because the implication that we get is the tide is pulling them back. So it's really difficult for them to make way. They don't have any wind for their sails, and the rapids between the pass they just came through is sucking them back towards it. In fact, that is what happens after the ships ram. That's where things get left, back on the rocks that they got sucked towards, which is another element of Lohar's suicidal revenge quest here, is that she should have realized ramming the ship would drag them all back towards that and leave them with very little chance of getting out alive. So that's really neat. As that happens, as the ramming is happening, Corlys is still looking the other way. The fisting. I'm sorry.
She fists them.
She fists them. The queen who never was fisted by the bitch fist.
That's what happened. That's exactly what happened, y'all.
I wonder how many times did Alan have to say that, because he goes, is it the Lannisters or the Greyjoys? It's the Triarchy. And then and he's like, give me my armor. And then the next scene is, it's the bitch fist. And he's like, Lohar, how many times does he need to say that without busting out laughing? I bet the first 3 times he's like, Lord Admiral, it's the bitch fist. Sorry. Let me get another take. Lord Admiral, it's the bitch. That's too funny. You can't say that seriously in his deep, serious voice. The bitch fist. It's too funny.
Yeah, it makes me laugh. Not in a good way, I'll say. It's a negative to me, but it's funny, I guess. But like in a very bad Game of Thrones way to me. But I don't know. It seems like if anyone would think this is funny, it's Shara. Because like probably someone called her a bitch sometime, and she's like, you know what? And she hit him with her fist and says, "Now I'm gonna name my ship the bitch fist." I don't know.
Yeah, you could make a backstory that makes it not as silly or whatever, but we don't have that, so we have to headcanon it, I suppose. Now in the book, Lohar's actions are different, but that is pretty easily translatable to what happens here. I wonder if they will do some more off-screen stuff with the Triarchy. We'll talk about that in the preview episode a bit more. So the actual combat here, the on deck-to-deck fighting was pretty cool. We've seen deck-to-deck fighting before. Sean, you and I watched Black Sails together. A lot of this reminded me of Black Sails just in general. The shouting of commands, the nautical terms being thrown about, the back and forth, the slippery, the navigating through treacherous waters, but also just the tension, the dilemmas. Remember, that was a big part of Black Sails, was that constantly characters were put in these really tough choices and like, damned if I do, damned if I don't. And that was like a very consistent theme throughout this episode, not just in the battle, but for all the characters, really, with very few exceptions. Let's see. So yeah, Alan falls into the water and is able to kill a man and grab a ladder, and he takes off his armor. I appreciate this because you look at his armor close up from before, and it's just shoulder pads, helmet, breastplate, and wrist guards. That's it. So it's clearly the kind of kit that's designed to be taken off in an emergency like that, which I appreciate that detail quite a bit.
I even considered that it might be particularly designed for sailors, right? To unsnap more easily, or something about it. Corlys's armor seems a little heavier and clunkier. Another little nuance or detail that buys some forgiveness from me for how some of this went or might go. The way the ship kind of cut the other ship in half and it's kind of collapsing, it allows for some of the people that go overboard there to have just fallen to the next deck beneath instead of sunk to the bottom of the ocean.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
It leaves a little more space for someone to like climb back up or have whatever, get their armor off or something.
Not to mention what I said before about them being dragged towards the rocks. So if they're in a rockier spot, like there's more opportunity for that.
I think I said earlier that where Tywin fell overboard, the water was shallower than where Corlys. But I wasn't thinking about the fact that the tide water might have pulled them in. And so they might have also been in shallower waters. I still feel like Tywin was shallower.
But maybe not as many places to grab hold.
It's hard to say.
Yeah. I would say I think Corlys's armor is easier to get off. Even if you think it looks bigger, I'm guessing as a, accomplished, competent sailor, his armor has quick release straps or something, just same as Alan did. I can't imagine he doesn't, frankly. Whereas Tyland, I don't know.
Ostensibly an accomplished sailor too, but he might be a little more likely to like go with the standard, the normal. It's Corlys is a little bit more of a maverick. He sailed the world and everything. So he might know some tricks or be willing to do some outside the box stuff that Tylan wouldn't.
So after Corlys goes into the drink, we'll say, Lohar is lying there on the deck, and Alan is surveying what just happened. And this is what I referred to earlier. Lohar thinks she's won. She thinks she got her revenge goal. And in that moment, the fire of her desire for revenge is gone. But guess who has it now? Alan, who just witnessed it all. And he starts roaring. He's furious. He's angry. And that fury carries him to the victory. He's roaring throughout the battle, and when he's done, he's breathing heavily. And she did not have the intensity that she had prior, because I think, having reached her goal, or perceived that she reached her goal, we don't know that she actually did. She certainly died thinking she did, which is an interesting little side piece there. But I think that's a really interesting aspect to it, is that she lost her edge in the moment for an ironic reason, which is the next cycle of revenge began. It just, instead of 20 years, it took about 20 seconds. And the edge that she lost was given to Alan, and he pressed that edge up against her throat and cut it, and that was that. And so he's left. There's a few other survivors kind of crawling around. You can see them as he emerges, but they're stuck on the rocks by then, and there's nothing they can do. And that's kind of where the episode ends for him. We know there's going to be more that happens. In fact, that's something that we should point out here. We're going to discuss Sheepstealer and Jace here in a minute, but the battle wasn't over. Just, maybe perception is that because the episode ends and we've never really had, as far as I can recall, a battle that spans multiple episodes. That battle wasn't over. All the leaders are out of it, or either dead or not moving, like Alan here, maybe Corlys, or certainly Tyland. But there's still, whoever just shot down Jace and was shooting at Moondancer, they were still doing that. That happened like 2 seconds before the episode ended. So there's every reason to believe this is going to continue. And it may even involve the guys over on the Isle of Faces, the Dragon Seeds, getting there in time to at least see this, if not participate somewhat. But more on that later. We're not talking about those Dragon Seeds just yet. I just feel like maybe we should have mentioned that along the way at some point, that this battle is almost certainly not over.
Can I tell you, from my perspective, I'm not very confident about this, but I thought that it was. I assumed that it was. I didn't even consider that it wasn't. When you bring it up, I can see easily how it wouldn't be. I concluded that this was a battle similar to Rook's Rest, where ostensibly the Blacks won, right? Like that Tyland's dead, Lohar's dead, a bunch of their ships are burned, that probably they're sailing back with their tails between their legs, that other dragons might show up to burn more ships, that how do they even communicate everything to each other? Some people might want to retreat or push forward. Yeah, I didn't. You were very correct that it could easily continue, but in my mind, I felt like this is Rook's Rest, where someone said, I wish I could remember the details. I think it was some council meeting, and someone said, "Our victory at Rook's Rest," and someone's like, "It could hardly be counted a victory."
Yeah, yeah.
Even if we assume this is over and one side or the other, quote unquote, won, did they really?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
you, Sean, you just actually nailed a line from the book. That is what someone says. One of the participants in the battle says, "If this is a victory, I don't want to win another one." So well done there. But yeah, and we don't necessarily have to call it a battle. If we briefly consider what we see from the Riverlands, where Daemon, that's not really a battle. That was the end of a battle. That was the mop up afterwards. That might be what is still left for this one. There's still some ships that may not have escaped. There's definitely ships of both sides still in the general vicinity of each other. So there's at least that much going on. Let's move on.
Skirmishing will certainly encounter, even if the battle is over.
Yeah.
But I don't think either side can very honestly or confidently claim a victory. And one other note I want to make is that's what I kind of expect from every battle. That's kind of what I expect every battle that happens through this season or through this war or whatever, is that at the end, neither side's going to be feel very good about it.
Yeah. Well, and of course, the lack of
battle with dragons. Daemon probably felt good about that defeat over the Lannisters.
Yeah, definitely.
Every battle with dragons is probably going to end with both sides having to feel like they lost.
So leadership-wise, this is timed very well. You have all the leaders leaving the page, leaving the screen, not being a part of the battle, whether it's even a battle anymore. I guess it still is a battle at this part when Sheepstealer enters, but the leadership is definitely gone by this point. And so we have leadership replaced by chaos. So the ultimate agent of chaos joins the battle, and it's also an example of poor leadership. Now, Rhaena isn't supposed to be some great leader, of course, but bringing a freshly tamed, not actually that tame dragon into battle, one that nobody will recognize nobody will recognize that dragon. Her heart's in the right place in terms of bravery and wanting to help, 110%. But bringing this dragon into battle in general, the so untrained, so unpracticed, very bad leadership, shall we say, if you want to even call it leadership. It's
dragon and her too.
Yeah,
right? Like,
and herself.
She doesn't really know how to manage a battle, how to manage the dragon, and like you said, it's very important that the other players won't recognize the dragon and see that she's on it or whatever.
Yeah, let alone the rider. The like the rider's one thing. They do eventually, at least Jace recognizes her, and that becomes tragically part of the events that happen. But yeah, nobody even has seen this dragon before. It's completely wild. She shows up, and the dragon is, you can tell pretty quickly, way bigger than Vermax or Moondancer, and that becomes very relevant to how the action carries out. That's also pretty straightforward from the books. Book Sheepstealer hatched back during the range of Jaehaerys, which is, well, that's a very wide range considering how long Jaehaerys reigned, but it's also enough to suggest a significant age gap. So Jace saying we're ready is ominous in hindsight, even if you know he's gonna die. Because yes, as a rider, he was ready. Baela was ready as a rider as well. They were brave enough. They knew the commands. Even their dragons were ready in terms of obeying commands and being able to deal out damage and respond to commands and not panic. But they can't take a hit. Their armor isn't developed yet. And that's something we also saw with Sheepstealer. None of these things that hit Sheepstealer could penetrate his armor, but he was hit a lot, and it was annoying him, infuriating him, making him mad. It was that much, but nothing stuck, nothing at all, because his armor is really tough. He's much older, and his scales have grown that much harder. I think if he had been hit by one of those anchor ballista, I don't think it would have been even remotely fatal, even close to dangerous. He would have just still kept flying. It might have just pulled itself back out of him and left a really nasty wound. But I don't know, maybe not, but they're clearly a lot more dangerous against the smaller dragon. Clearly a lot more effective against the smallers.
The shot of Sheepstealer chasing Baela was really giving Vhagar, chasing Luke last season.
I mean, yeah, Arax, yeah. So many of us were dreading these changes because we could see the changes coming in advance. Some of the changes started quite a while back, the butterfly effect. And George was apparently against so much of it that also, well, that doesn't suggest that we're going to like it so much either. But frankly, even though it's very different, the way they use Sheepstealer, I think, is better than the way George used Sheepstealer, at least in this battle. Not necessarily the whole Sheepstealer plot. I don't necessarily like Rhaena more than Nettles, but I do think I like Book Rhaena less than Show Rhaena. I think Show Rhaena so far I like more than Book Rhaena, and that's cool. That's a win for the show. It's rare that I say that. I really like this version better than just all the dragons are on one side and there's no conflict in terms of their organization, not very much risk. The chaos, I think, added so much to the battle. It creates a lot more conflict, a lot more danger. And it harkens back to episode 1 of House of the Dragon, Viserys telling Rhaenyra, this whole control over dragons is an illusion. And you were right to bring up Vhagar and Arax, because Aemond was not trying to kill Luke. We forget that because he owned it afterwards. He kind of pretended he did it on purpose because he didn't want to look like a fool. Rather to look evil than stupid. Because
it didn't look like he couldn't control his dragon.
Right, but he couldn't. Arax was done. He was like, no, Vhagar, no. And Vhagar killed Arax. Like, he did not order that. He did not want that. So here we go. Like, Sheepstealer, and this is a way less trained, way less responsive to command dragon. Rhaena didn't know that, but maybe she should have. So Sheepstealer is chasing.
Also,
yeah, go ahead.
Less experience in battle. Even some of those,
maybe 0 battles, probably the first battle Sheepstealer's ever been in.
Some of those blows he was taking, like fireballs hitting him and smashing into ship masts and stuff like that, even if it didn't hurt him, it probably scared him, right?
Recognized it as violence against him. Yeah, like as an animal.
Scared, startled, etc. Yeah.
So yeah, and like you said, for like first battle, that's a really good point. I didn't think of that. Vhagar's been in lots of battles. Vhagar's in the freaking conquest for God's sake. Like, so Sheepstealer starts off by attacking a couple of Triarchy ships, responds to the command Dracarys, and then they start fighting back, and Sheepstealer gets pissed, like you said. Doesn't seem to take any serious damage, but it's enough, and goes after the Triarch. Like, doesn't count doesn't read banners, maybe can't even tell the difference in colors. Maybe the reptile eyes can't view the difference between blue and, well, whatever color, black, the Triarchy ships. Yeah, their ships aren't even that different color sales-wise. Anyway, he starts chasing after Moondancer when Moondancer comes after him because Sheepstealer starts burning Velaryon ships. So everything makes sense in terms of people's responses. As Rhaena struggles even more, her desperation grows. She's trying to get control, shouting everything from obey to, follow my commands to beating on his head. Like that's not going to do anything, but she's just so desperate.
So that's my sister.
And she says, that's my sister. That's the one she whispers because she's just at her wit's end. And so Moondancer comes at her. And Sheepstealer very notably dodges, grabs, and Moondancer dives below, which I think is important because if she'd gone above, she might have gotten a look. But Baela never shows any indication she recognizes her sister. Then Jace notices what's happening, comes over to help. And because he sees that Sheepstealer's now chasing Moondancer. Moondancer's really quick, but Sheepstealer is coming along and looks kind of intimidating and scary. And of course, Jace doesn't know who the hell that is. Jace is going to assume, just like Baela did, that this is some Green's dragon because it's taking out their own ships. They might be a little confused by it taking out Velaryon Triarchy ships, but it's chasing her. So it's clearly not on their side from that piece of evidence. It's one of the coolest parts, just the careening through the ships, like Sheepstealer's just like a bull in a china shop, knocking through masts and sails, just way too big for any of that to hold him, but enough to slow him down a bit. So he's focused on Moondancer, like an animal would be, focused on his prey, right? But then Vermax gets in the way. He orders Vermax to kill the rider. He says, Vermax, kill the rider. There's it on the screen. But he gets close and recognizes Rhaena and then orders him to evade, which is the tragic...
No, Vermax.
No, Vermax. And this is the tragic moment. He does his awesome spin to evade, goes down. That brings him close to the ships. And then Sheepstealer turns his focus to this one who has just attacked him, the most recent attacker, all very animalistic. I think it's all very consistent, flying after the most recent thing to attack him, chasing him. Then Jace gets shot. And then he's like, oh, well, the thing I was chasing is gone. And his rage has to burn out at some point. Frankly, I think, sometimes the mind of an animal, especially a supernatural, plot-heavy animal, is impenetrable. You just can't know what's going on. But I think Sheepstealer just flew from the Vale, got into his first ever battle, and then when he was chasing something that vanished, he realized how freaking hungry he was. Just went off. He just wants to go eat again. Very disappointing battle for Sheepstealer. Nothing in that entire battle turned out to be edible. He didn't get a single bite. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I mean, all the bodies are water-soaked, waterlogged. Like, ugh, soggy bodies? Yeah. No way.
So interesting and extra tragic, an extra loss for the Blacks. When you see what control Jace did have over his dragon, that he gives such a specific command like kill the rider, and then right after that saying, oh, never mind, and the dragon never minding, right? The dragon needs to just gone ahead and blasted the fire anyway. It's a split-second decision that the dragon followed.
He thought he was ready, and it's reasons like that, it's good evidence for his perspective of things. But once again, it comes back to your dragon can't take a hit, bro. Like that's really, that's what matters the most. Just wait a few more years, and your dragon's like all, a lot closer to invulnerable, or as close as something that like that could be. But he can waiting a few more years. Who has that option when you're in a war? So yeah, it was really sad.
Just wait maybe a few more days and go to some battle that isn't so dangerous, or so uncontrolled, or we have more support, or on and on.
And this is an argument for Rhaenyra's side of things, which is that Syrax is a considerably larger dragon. Maybe not quite as big as Sheepstealer, but in that class, roughly, maybe a little bit smaller, more like Sunfire size, very large, maybe enough to be able to take a hit or two and survive and get out of there, rather than just one hit takes you down and you're dead.
And Rhaenyra is a great dragon rider as well. Maybe, right. I don't know the commands, like if she's as good at commanding Syrax, or Syrax is a good listener, but she's likes to do tricks and stuff, she likes to just fly around, right?
Right. She has much, much more experience. And also, another value of the bigger dragon, ostensibly, could probably shoot its fire from farther away.
Good point.
Doesn't have to be as exposed. Don't have to get as low to shoot at the ships and be as exposed to, harpoons or crossbows or whatever else in the process.
And it was just really sad, like the Vermax's cries of pain and desperation. After we've been feeling all the desperation of Rhaena through all that, it transfers over to them and several other characters' desperation, really. It's really quite a culmination of desperation, all in this moment of ultimate desperation where there's nothing anyone can do. And you think maybe, like, book readers knew Jace was going to go out there. But, folks like you, Sean, were like, okay, well, maybe he's going to get like, you could see him getting scooped up as a hostage, right? Like, that wouldn't have been unreasonable at all.
Or scooped up by an ally,
that would have been
ashore. Davos made it ashore.
There's plenty of ways to keep him alive. Yeah, it's just and all those were in the back of your head when he's floating. They're like, oh, okay, like we've seen characters get out of this sort of thing before.
I thought it's tragic enough for the dragon to have died.
Yeah,
and all likely for Corlys to have died, and for huge hunks of the fleet, and. You lived, but you're lucky to have lived. Like, it's still like a lesson learned. I don't know. No. Also, you're dead.
Yeah. And there's that excellent moment of tension where he's grabbing for the saddle, like his saddle hook, where he's trying to release himself, and that just adds a little bit of it, and then he still gets killed. Yeah. A little bit of Robb Starky in the way the arrows hit him, reminder of that, I think. He had a lot in common with Robb, age-wise, and
This might be a real nitpicky, but one thing that I'm like, I'm not so sure about that factor. I think once the dragon hit the water, I'm not so sure it would have sunk. I don't think the weight necessarily would have pulled it down. It could pull it down from the ground. Its wings aren't strong enough to maintain flight, but the lungs in its air would keep it afloat.
Well, it still had the weight attached to it, though, Sean. It still had the anchor.
Right, but the anchor would have to be so much heavier to pull you through the water.
I don't know. That you might be right, but I wouldn't have any certainty about that.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of certainty, but just aircraft carriers carry dozens of multi-thousand-pound fighter jets in addition to all the food and water for thousands of people, and they stay afloat. Air keeps you afloat.
But those aircraft carriers are alive. They're still breathing.
In my head,
it could be that it punctured its lung and the air escaped from its lung.
That's what I would guess is that, yes, that it was punctured, which we see that did happen, like the skin was broken. And I also wonder just how dragons do with water. Period. Since if they're fire made flesh, would he be doomed anyway?
Yeah. You can't take off again. You can't
how
take
heavy
off from the water.
How heavy are dragon bones, for example? I don't know.
Anyway, let's move on. This is too nerdy of a detail. Let's move on. Too nerdy of a detail, Sean.
That slightly bothered me about it is that even if it didn't sink into the water, well, they're still going to take it out, just like they took Jace out. Now it's easy. It's instead of a sitting duck, a sitting dragon for all those harpoons.
Sure. Well, that's not a
it was dead
That's just what they would have.
Excuse it. Find the dragon's dead.
That's just what they would have done anyway.
What I want to hear about are all of the divers who are going to come up with a great payday. Once
I don't think you can get to him out there.
Yeah,
I think he's too far out there. I don't think the divers can get to him.
I think maybe you get like something to hook the dragon, and you're trying to just get flesh.
You got to go to Hard Home Depot all over again, and then haul that thing back up.
You're right.
Get those dragon chains.
How perfect is Hard Home Depot?
I know, right? So the conflict in this battle is really going to extend quite well into the aftermath phase. The only thing that was actually resolved was Lohar's revenge plot, which, as you said, Sean, was just new anyway. Like, that's not some long-standing plot. We have a death is a resolution, but it often causes new plots. Like Jace's death, it's not like, oh, well, he's gone now. That's it. And obviously there's going to be serious fallout, as we've discussed. Laurent, Rhaena, Baela. Like, do we know if Baela even recognized her? I don't think she did. I don't think, where is Rhaena even going to go? So most of this is preview episode discussion stuff, but I want to raise the questions here for y'all to think about, for Sean to think about. In this sense, the battle works really well as an opener, because normally battles don't create plots that well. This one did, or at least it furthered them in addition to creating some, which is why it's not usually a great idea to start the season with the battle, because you want to do setup. But this show did that. This battle actually did that. So I was impressed by that combination of things, which is hard to do at the same time. As you said, Sean,
last season was really set up for this season or this battle. Like, remember the
absolutely
moments we talked about the scene of Alicent, on the horizon or whatever, but it was a montage of all the pieces. It was, Daemon, and we saw the little flash of Otto had been taken captive, and we saw the Ormond and his army marching, and the Lannister. It was just all the pieces that were kind of set up to come into conflict. That was the closing moment of last season. So it is not exactly normal, but the way they've designed this, it did make sense for this episode to start off with the battle.
Yeah, and it worked. Like, it wasn't the plan, but they made it work, and I'm impressed by that. So yeah, we'll see how so Jace's death, I think, is going to matter more in the show than it does in the books. It matters a lot, but because they have blame to put within their own family, the conflict that Rhaenyra had with Nettles isn't necessarily worse, but this is more severe. This is a bigger form of like problem potentially. So, but that depends on how it actually plays out. We'll have to see about that. One of the predictions I got wrong, maybe, was the presence of the dragon seeds at the Gullet. We'll see. As I said, there's still the potential that they show up here because the battle may not be over. In the book version, 28 enemy ships escape back to Essos, but the number is not very important. So we'll see. Another thing, Sean, to give you evidence that the battle wasn't over was that when Bela was circling around, like at first they show her, she's getting shot at still. Like they're shooting harpoons at her, and then she just gets too high, and then they can't do it anymore. But anyway, but that doesn't mean there's a cohesive thing happening.
My read on that is that she's just going to go back home. She's to report what happened. And it also, as just in this midst of us talking about it here, it occurred to me that even if the battle isn't over, it can be resolved with a line of dialogue. Sure. I don't know if they're going to spend a lot of time and money and budget in the next episode in this battle. They'll just say, the Trarchy retreated in a small force, but we've lost Driftmark, and they could just, someone can report the results of it.
Yeah, you're right. A lot of work can be done off screen. We'll see how they handle it.
I would say that much like the show itself, we have spent too much time on this battle. And we should move along because, we're going to talk more about the spoilery parts and about our theories on some stuff on Friday, y'all. Friday at 5 p.m. I do have a lot to say about this, but I really can't. Unless I can say spoilers.
Right. All right, cool. Yeah, let's keep it moving like she said. You all can stick with us all season long, and one of the best ways to do that is on Patreon. We have extra content going on there. There's also bonus episodes, some of which are directly related to the Dance of the Dragons. In fact, this phase of the war, Corlys asked, is it the Lannisters or the Greyjoys? Well, what are the Lannisters and the Greyjoys actually doing during the book version of the Dance of the Dragons? Well, the Greyjoys attacked the Lannisters, taking advantage of the presence of the Lannister army in the Riverlands to strike when the opportunity was best. So that is probably not going to be in the show. It's too separate of a plot line. More naval battles, more stuff, but it's a fun side story. It takes 2 full episodes that we did with Radio Westeros, so check that out if you want some bonus content. It's one of the best things you get when joining our Patreon, but there's lots of other things too. Lots of other ways to support us as well outside of Patreon. You can go to historyofwesteros.com. You can sign up for Audible, get some free books, get some downloads, get some Game of Thrones books, get Fire and Blood perhaps, or something that's completely unrelated, a different series. You could shop through Amazon. That's a great way to help us out. And you can follow any of the other links there that lead to different things that give us some support. One of our favorite and I think best ways to spread word of History of Westeros podcast is word of mouth. You all are the best people to bring new listeners to the show. You tell your friends how much you like listening to us, assuming you do. And, well, that's better than us saying anything we could ever do. No kind of marketing or sales pitch or any sort of convincing or anything like that works better than your own trusted close friends. If they tell you like something and you might like it, well, I tend to listen to that. I bet you do too. So do that, tell your friends, and leave us a rating while you're at it. Whatever podcast platform you're on, drop that rating, whatever you think we deserve. Okay, some questions from you all. Haymaker710 says, what did you think of the new intro? I don't dislike it, and I assume you're talking about the music, because the actual tapestry stuff has changed very little, if at all. For the first episode, I assume it's going to continue evolving as it has, which I'm looking forward to.
It has changed, but like one little shot.
Okay, just one little shot. Okay. As far as the music, which is more changed, it also wasn't changed very much. The music, I heard the sound was going to be different, the theme music was going to be different. I was expecting a bigger change, so I was a little disappointed, but I do like the darker, drummier, heavy drummer version. But because my expectations were what they were, well, yeah, I was a little disappointed. And that, by the way, my friends, is a really important reason to set your expectations properly. And that's something I said when I'm talking about, we're very stubborn about our expectations from the books. I really think that the more you let go of your expectations, the more you enjoy the show. Soapbox over. Just wanted to say that real quick.
Well, can I say something about the intro? We have our own intro that you see at the beginning and end of our episodes done by Brand the Builder, and he will be debuting our season 3 version next Monday. This was our season 2 version. We will have a different version with more music, more live instruments that he recorded. I haven't seen it yet, so I'm very excited to show you guys that. Get those expectations high. That's what Aziz has been saying all along, right? Come into things with high expectations.
That's what I'm saying. Expect everything you ever consume in media to be perfect. That is what I'm saying. Expect it to meet every expectation you've had and more. Expect it to be exactly what you wanted, but also expect to be surprised.
Can I add one other little note to the idea of, expectations and book versus show and everything? One thing that on some level helps me and maybe will help other people too is that this is a story that we're being given and there are different perspectives on it. Like even in the first place, correct me if I'm wrong, like even in World, we're getting this story from different people's perspectives who aren't completely reliable narrators, right? So sometimes you can just decide you're a headcanon or decide I like this part of the show and I like this part of the book. And if I want to support character X, I'll just ignore the stuff the book said about them. And you could cherry pick what you like to make the story you want. I don't know if that's fair or good, but it's an angle you can take.
Right on. Itazin Games sends a super chat, says, excited for another season. Good luck in the Hugo Award run. Vote has been cast. Well, thank you for that. Yeah, friends, reminder that we are up for a Hugo Award for Best Related Work. If you join the World Fantasy Society, you can, or World Fiction Society, excuse me.
World Science Fiction Society.
World Science Fiction Society.
WSFS.
You can vote for us to win a Hugo this year, and your purchase of that membership gets you a lot of bonus content from the Hugo Awards, books and games, and all sorts of cool stuff.
It costs $50, and you get way more than $50 worth of books.
Huge amount.
So It is worth it if you think you will read those books and you want to support us.
That's right. Please do. JM3517 says, can't tune in now, but we'll catch this tomorrow. Just popping in to say hashtag Sean Gang, hashtag Sean for life. That's right. Sean for life with a Y, because this is Game of Thrones universe. Thank you as well to Wallace the Dog, 3898, and West of Westeros for the super chats. Let's see here. Favorite moment scene. This here. I'm sorry. West of Westeros says, love your channel. I just hope those out there with big opinions read a book. So much insight. Instead, I see firsthand ignorance. The page. Nerds are not your enemy. That's right. Nerds are not your enemy. I'm a nerd. I'm not anyone's enemy, I don't think. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of room for all these things to get along, in my opinion. Let's talk about our favorite moments here. Let's get back to, speaking of, let's fan out a minute again here. Sean, did you have a favorite moment / scene? I see how you've written that you can't decide, but do your best to narrow it down as much as possible.
Yeah, I started off saying that I'm not as excited about, big spectacular moments and explosions and stuff. I like nuance and insight. And there were a bunch. There was, maybe I haven't had enough time to contemplate it yet and I'll settle, but I'll throw a couple little ones out there, giving examples, the types of thing I really love. When that cleanup with the Lannisters and Daemon and Oscar, and Daemon's like, all right, let's move on and do this. And Oscar's like, oh, we need to bury the dead. And Daemon's like, no, we'll just burn the bodies. They won't, he gives some reasons even for it too. And Oscar's like, no, we don't do things like that. Riverland or return to the mud. And Daemon's like, just this little sigh, and he rolls his eyes. It's a huge amount of time to bury bodies. He wants to get on with it. He doesn't think it matters. But he also kind of has to keep Oscar's support. That all happened in like 1 second. But I bet it might even be foretelling a future conflict between Daemon and Oscar and the Riverland men. A great little moment of acting and editing that carried a lot with it, and I think might even be foreshadowing. Something they've done consistently that I really appreciate, they maintain here, is every now and then Aemon, especially when he's confronted with new news, he's like, he does that little, and he did that when he's about to kill Orwell, And that other council member, I forget his name, but he's like, hey, actually, Loras is missing too. And Aemon's like, so he doesn't kill Orwell. I like to maintain that little piece of his mannerism. The one when, you know what? This is one I wanted to mention earlier. There's a moment as I almost scoffed at first when I'm pretty sure it's Tessarion. That's Daron. That's Alicent's son. It's been fostering, warded, and ostensibly traveling with Ormond and his host, along with that dragon. And it was just in this, like a series of posts in the ground. Like, clearly the dragon could just walk or fly right through or out of that, right? But I think, especially because that was framed right after a wild sheep stealer scene, I think it's creating this contrast between the discipline and organization of that dragon and this Hightower host versus wild sheep stealer.
It's like seeing a huge mastiff that's just like held back by one of those little dog doors. It's like that thing could totally bust through if he wanted to, but he's been trained to not to recognize that as a barrier and to hold back. Yeah, that's a great observation.
Yeah, and so once again, that's something that happened in like 1 second, but carries a lot of story with it. I love that kind of thing. One other I'll throw out there was when Rhaenyra had her little tirade tearing up that dress. She kind of throws it down, catches her breath. I think she ends up saying a line about how that she just keeps being perceived as a weak woman, even though she has the heart and soul of a king. But in that moment, she flipped her ponytail back over her shoulder. Like, it was so real. You know what I mean? I don't know how to say this, but it was like, I even wonder how directed that was, or if that was a little actor decision, but it makes it feel less staged and more like real people performing or being witnessed, if you will.
Can I say, well, I mentioned it earlier that quote you mentioned is an actual quote from Elizabeth I. That I have the weak and fragile body.
Yeah, I thought I heard you say that, but I wasn't sure what you meant.
Yeah, that's from Tilbury. But regardless, when she said that, I think Emma Darcy was such a good actor in this episode, right? However, there was this like petulance I felt, a streak in it where I'm like, you are this entitled royal. All these people are dying for you. You have the body. You have like the soul of a king. Okay, sure you do. I don't mean to, I know a lot of people were hit hard by this, but there's a part of me that is like, I don't feel that bad for you. All of these people are dying for you to be king.
I think you're right, Ashaya, and I think it's an important point about Rhaenyra is that she has not had a lot of experience with common folk. It's part of why she acts the way she does towards Ulf, because she's never been around that before, and even more so than like someone like Aegon. Well, actually, Aegon is someone who's actually like goes out and drinking in like regular pubs. Even though he does awful things there, he's at least knows how to like. He's going to fit in better like undercover if he's able to get to that point because of things like that. Whereas Rhaenyra, like because of the split between greens and blacks, she's spent most of her life living on Dragonstone. Whereas if she had been raised in the Red Keep, she'd have been around a lot more people, around a lot more common people. So yeah, she is isolated. I think she is a little bit like that. I think she is a little spoiled, doesn't realize it.
I wonder too, because again, I think I agree with you, Shay. It doesn't take away from the performance.
Even her tearing up this dress. But, like how many people could have been fed for a year?
Exactly. I bet. Yeah, I guarantee you the work that went into that, just seeing it shredded in a way that can't really be repaired either. But by the way, I think Jace has that same petulance, and it was a little more obvious last season too, when he's like, "Oh, these." He called them mongrels. He
threatened to hang Ulf. Yeah, he threatened to hang him. That was
not a good look for him.
Not a good look for Jace. Jace's worst moment. Yeah. But you're Sean, and that the whole point about the dress, y'all. Remember, the High Sparrow brought that point up to Marjorie Tyrell. Like, how many like hours did that dress take? That you're wearing. So that's a great point. Like that's come up before in a really meaningful way. All right. So real quick, Sean, just respond to you one other thing you said there about Orwyle, and it was Ironrod who was the other counselor that stopped him at the last minute there. Yeah. And I think I had another point, but whatever. I'll come back to it later. Shaya, let's hear your takes here.
Well, I guess you could guess based on me being like, ugh, these aristocracy. I really liked the Isle of Faces scene because I like to see what's closest to our common born people, right? One. So I appreciated that, which I talked about a bit earlier. But yeah, like seeing a green man is just really, really exciting. Ulf's monologue was really good. The mystery of Hugh not saying anything in response to like, how are you a dragon seed? Adam's kind of letter of the law vibe. I don't know. I like their whole dynamic a lot. The three of them. And yeah, seeing Alice Rivers in that scene was so exciting. Her glib response that she's a witch because she knows that's like what'll just shut them up and make them listen to her. You know what I mean? So like I liked that a lot. I wanted to get the pictures of the green man up closer. There we go. Which I also have another shot of. So I have to say Isle of Faces, but the other one's one that we haven't touched on much yet, which is the scene with Gwaine Hightower where he witnesses a girl who's raped and he's very rattled by it. And it's this spooky, foggy kind of forested area. He's looking up in the sky like he is a little afraid that they could get attacked by a dragon still. He sees that and he is shaken by what his own their men are doing. He tries to talk to Kristen. And I just thought that was a really good character, be a good look at the common people on the ground, that there's women being raped among these armies. You know what I mean? Like it was a very meaningful scene.
I very much agree with you there. Let me add something, Sean. Let me let you weigh in on this, but I wanted to add some connective tissue here based on what you said, Sean, about the organization and cleanliness of the Hightower army. That's what this guy, Gwaine, would be used to and expecting, and instead he's getting that, which,
That's exactly what I was going to say.
Okay, there, good observation there.
Part of the scene is to create a contrast with the army that Ormond's leading right now and how they're maybe a little green to the reality of what this war is going to bring out.
Oh, they're definitely green. Hey!
Also, love seeing Kristen paint.
Yeah.
Seeing Kristen paint after Night of the Seven Kingdoms, it was extra meaningful to see a knight painting his own shield there.
Yeah, and I wonder how long he's going to have that kind of level of cleanliness and precision, and hanging out like that. Given what he said, it's not going in that direction.
I guess that was another quick thing I want to clarify. Those, I don't know, the bastard dragon riders. They're waiting on the Isle of Faces. That's where they physically were. I wasn't sure about that. I was wondering.
That is where they were. That's why we see, as you'll see on the screen here, Clinton Liberty shared this BTS shot of a green man, which everyone should see because it's lovely to see all that work closer.
Yeah.
That is awesome. Yeah, look at that. Wow. Yeah, so that makes sense. It makes sense. Like the Isle of Faces is right by Harrenhal. It's got a view of it, and we've seen multiple times. Like when Rhaenyra flew to Harrenhal, she flew past the Isle of Faces, and there was a shot from season 2, and we were looking at the trailers before season 2. We were like, "Is that Cyrax over the Isle of Faces? Interesting." And it was, yeah. So
because we did see one of those green men at Harrenhal one time, or
yes,
Daemon,
at the tree.
At least thought he saw one. So I thought maybe the green men were more in this time period, just around that area, and not just on the Isle of Faces, but.
Yes, like we wouldn't have necessarily thought they were outside of the Isle until that Daemon scene, and that, as far as book canon, we could probably still assume they don't come ashore. But maybe that was a vision.
Also, Daemon could just be having a vision of some sort. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
One last little spark of thought from that moment. Whose side is Alice on, or is she on?
We don't know. We do not know.
Leave, I wonder if she's doing that because she's trying to get them to help with the battle in the Gullet, or trying to get them out of there because Aemond is coming or not coming.
Yeah, Aemond.
Anyway,
like the timing is interesting because Aemond was just convinced to go after he decided he wasn't coming. So that is who knows? Like, she seemed to help Daemon, but now she seems to be helping. That's a big open question, and one that is really fun to look forward to because it's also not something super clear to book readers.
I will say in the chat, people say, is it definitely the Isle of Faces? There's a debate. They could just be on the lake shore. There's an argument. I think it looked like it was an island kind of separate based on the view we had.
It was the Isle, yeah.
Right?
I'm 100% sure,
okay,
yeah. Like they said, they were like, I hate this place. Like, what place? Like, they were talking about this place. What is this place? This the Riverlands, like this
lakeshore.
This lakeshore.
But I think it looked like
because they could have moved to a different lakeshore if they didn't like that one, as long as they're inside of Harrenhal. But I guess there's maybe I should say 100% chance, but I'm very confident. So mine was, I already talked about Jace's mad Targaryen destiny moment. I thought that was really brilliant. I agree with a lot of yours, Sean. One other one to say is with the Oscar thing, Damon and Oscar and the blood thing. I put in my notes, I was like, hey, you know, Black Alley Blackwood was in the credits, but I didn't see her. But look, there she is. Zoom and enhance, Ashea, to the left. There's Black Alley Blackwood and the left. Woohoo! So she debuted before she officially debuted. Because she isn't even given a name yet, but she's in the credits, and we were very much looking forward to that character. So there she is. And I also appreciate the authority implications of what you're pointing out there. Damon did have to kind of obey that. He had to kind of not obey, but go along with what Oscar wanted there. And I really liked Roderick Dustin's arrival. That's who that was, Sean. The guys, the Northmen walking up. I don't know if you. He was a Dustin, not a Stark, but yes, the Dustins are vassals to the Starks.
There are lots of Stark banners everywhere because they are vassals to the Starks. But you can see here in the picture, he's got this little sigil on his chest. It's the Dustin sigil. The axe is there.
That is Barrowton. So he's the Lord of Barrowton.
You remember in the books, Lady Dustin?
Oh yeah.
Of course.
I in general, I was referring to them as Starks, like Stark forces.
Yes.
But I do remember wondering what that sigil was there. Yeah.
So I had this whole list of callbacks and references. We'll save that for another time. It'll build, and maybe we can even do it as a separate episode or something like that. But we're taking so long here in this first fun episode. After 2 years of not talking about the show, we have so much to say. So let's talk about the beasts in the Riverlands. It starts with a little bit of what we just talked about, Kristen Cole and Gwaine. Rhaenyra is raging at her own helplessness and perceiving betrayal all around. Kristen Cole's kind of given up, almost. It's a really dark scene, and the lighting, the way you described it, Sean, I think really fuels that. Or did you
I described it.
Oh, you described it? Okay, I thought you both did. Maybe you both did. Anyway, you both were.
I'll give Shay credit for sure.
Shay, good job pointing that out. That's really important. Gwaine Hightower observes this, so there's no doubt he happens. Cole shrugs it off, but he doesn't shrug it off because it's a crime. He fully admits it's a crime. He's like, yeah, the guy deserves to be hanged. Go do it. It's of all the tragedy and death and Oedipian vibes from Aemond in this episode. To me, this was easily the darkest scene. Cole recognizes it as an atrocity, but Rook's Rest changed him so much and he expects to die and he doesn't expect anyone that's in his state of mind, which he thinks all of his soldiers are at this point. He expects all his soldiers are feeling the way he is. We are walking dead. We're going to die. And this having to go through what we're going through is making us into that type of man. The man that just raped that woman, we're all going to become that because no one can go through this without turning into that. And I hate it because it's partly true that the best people, even the best people, dutiful, honorable, good people can be turned into monsters if you force them onto that path. You make them do this. Jaime thinks about it. And Jaime thinks about how there's infinite villagers out there that if you leave them alone, they'll just go through their whole life never doing worse than committing some petty crime, never anything worse than that. But you put them in an army and put a spear in their hand and tell them to kill people, they might start doing awful things like this, especially if they're afraid of it happening to themselves, especially if they don't have enough food, especially if there's disease, especially if leadership tolerates it. And that's what Gwaine is pushing back against. He's saying, look, we can still stop this. Think of Stannis. Think of Stannis as a no tolerance policy for rape, yet even under him, it still happens. It still happens, which is like, you got to remember things like that when thinking of Kristen Cole's point. It's like, when people become this dark, you should expect it. You shouldn't think, oh, I'm so affronted by this. You should expect it as a reality of warfare.
I generally agree with you, but I think there's a different angle to this. I think it's more so that Kristen has become, I want to say, nihilistic. I don't think it's so much like, yeah, war does this to people. I think it's that we're all going to get burned to dust. It doesn't matter if that guy rapes or if that woman got raped. They're going to be burned to death. I think he's more like, none of this even matters. It doesn't matter if we have morals or how bad it is in war because we're all just dust under these dragons' feet. He's even more gone than like, oh, there's just tragedies of wars and men lose who they are. What are you going to do? It's more that like, we're all just dead already. It doesn't even matter.
And Gwaine is not, though, right?
Of war, but this inevitability of us all being dead and none of what we do matter.
Yeah, similar thoughts, but I agree with your like tweak to my idea, or you're seeing a little differently. Yeah, I think I wouldn't disagree with that either.
Can I point your attention briefly just to this shot? I
Yeah.
realize this does make it look like it's a lakeshore and not necessarily the Isle of Faces, because look where Harrenhal is. It doesn't like look like it's so separate. You see what I mean?
You know what? You're right.
It looks like they're just
Maybe
right
I
there.
have to undo my certainty.
Yeah. Anyways,
That does kind of look like they're just on the shore of the lake there.
Yeah, there's some argument for either, but I'm gonna say it's not
Interesting.
the Isle of Faces, but it's as
Just
close
near
to
it.
the Isle of Faces to me because you see a green man, and that's what I was excited about. Was more of the
Yeah,
green
no,
man
you guys
of
are
it all.
right. I rescind that certainty. This does look like a lakeshore on the same side of Harrenhal, and the Isle of Faces is clearly over there to the west there, or to the left, whatever. Huh, all right, cool. Well, the green men do like to, they maybe they have little canoes. Anyway, for more on the Kristen Cole situation, check out our Butcher's Ball episode, which details his time in the Riverlands. So on the flip side are the Winter Wolves. Let's talk about them. These are men who are also expecting to die. Literally the first line is, we have come to die for the Dragon Queen. So, by the way, I was the Simpsons meme where all the kids in Bart's class are looking back at him saying, say the line, Bart, say the line. That was me watching this episode. I was like, say the line. I said it 3 times as he's walking up, because they played it out. They dragged it out a little bit in a good way. There was cool music. Roddy walks up with the head. He tosses it. You're not entirely sure what head that is. He surveys the army. He looks up at the dragon, and he did that so well, because it's like, this is an old man who's seen it all. He's like, well, that's not something that's new, actually.
Thought he'd seen it all.
Yeah, so I love how he just takes a second, his eyes look up at it, and then we've come to die for the Dragon Queen, and Daemon's like, all right. He's like, good, very good. We have more lions to hunt. Tosses him Jason Lannister's head. It's not, my small complaint here is he should have said, Jason Lannister, or something like that, because that does not look like Jefferson Hall.
I think it looks like him. I just think it's a bad, it's like silicone looking mask. I don't know. I
Well,
think
same difference.
it looks
That's what I'm
bad,
saying.
But I think it looks clearly as Jefferson Hall to me, but in a very fake head way.
Either way, so he walks up, he's out of breath, and you finally get the smile from Daemon, which is a rare thing, as he sees what he's got on his hands now. These guys are like cheering for the fact that they're going to go off and fight and go off and die for the Dragon Queen. So isn't that quite a contrast? These Greens are like dead on their feet doing awful things, thinking, they're reverting to bestial men, and these are reverting to bestial men, but they have honor. They're not about like, we're in fear because we know we're going to die soon. They're like, it's time. We're old men who've seen it all. We want to go out fighting because that's our culture. That's our vibe. That's the best way to die.
Well, the flip side is they haven't faced a dragon yet. They haven't seen their comrades just cut down by an unstoppable force. They haven't got that feeling of defeat that Cole has right now.
Good point. Very good point. Yeah, you're right. So far, they haven't been on that side, and the Riverlanders have only been on the side of a dragon so far. They haven't faced one yet either.
Call them sweet winter children.
Sweet winter children.
Sweet winter.
Sweet winter men.
Sweet winter seniors.
Sweet winter seniors. Winter seniors.
They're all very
Salty
old.
winter seniors.
Yeah.
So the Lannister twins both died this episode. That's fun.
I want to slightly amend my statement. Not that they haven't had the defeat Cole has had, the feeling of insignificance that Cole has.
That's a very good way to put it. Yes, doom and look to the skies, to the horizon. Doom and ruin surround us. Yeah, to the skies, the dragon. To the horizon, our future. That's what he means. Yeah. Shakespearean Cole continues forward towards his perceived doom. And Gwaine is trying to pull him back from the precipice. So, yeah, there's other... one other thing that you can easily miss is when this scene first begins, we first zoom into it. There's some dudes going at it on the left, chopping at something. It's the head of Jason's lion. They're cutting the lion's head off right there. I did not catch that till the 3rd or 4th episode time I saw it.
Well, they feature it in if you watch The House That Dragons Built, which is the 24-minute making of that they release. It's a separate listing on HBO Max and on YouTube. It's called The House That Dragons Built. It's awesome. They featured this lion being created too well for me, who loves cats and loves lions. I was hit very hard by this, especially I mean, much like the dragons, it's not like their choice. They're just like, this lion was just brought into this battle and now has head hacked off. And
it's a weird thing to do, bring the lion.
Yeah, I mean, Jason sucked. I mean, that's kind of why Tylan was likable, is that you were comparing him to his twin, and like anyone looks good compared to how terrible and dickish Jason is. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I was glad he was killed, but this poor lion.
Couple other parallels here. Gawain points out that Cole's authority in setting an example are important. He's like, look, if you set an example, it's going to go a long way towards preventing it. He's not saying it will, stop everything. It's not the, be all end all, but it would help a lot. We don't even see the end of it. The implication is that nothing's going to be done about it. Like that. I think that's what I got from that.
I think Gawain still hangs him.
Okay.
But I think Gawain
I would be surprised,
he needs to be punished. You need to punish him. You need to set an example. And Cole's like, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if I set an example. Go and kill him if you want, but I don't care.
Yeah, I'm with you there. And that's so bad because not allowing it to happen means others are going to do it, right? Like that's the huge downside of not standing up to it, not nipping that in the bud, to put it mildly. So that's a very interesting thing. Not only are they thematically linked by this opposition of, the different types of morale and people expecting to die, people who are willing to die versus people who are walking down the road to hell, the road to perdition. They're both in the Riverlands, both these armies. So that is, and so are those dragons trying to ambush Vhagar. So a lot of stuff, as usual, the Riverlands being in the middle of Westeros is where a lot of action takes place.
I didn't give much of a shout out to this, but I do want to mention briefly. I love it when they're able to give us the effect of there having been a big fight without actually having to show us the big fight. Not only because it saves them budget, but because I personally, like Sean, don't care so much about the big fights. And I would rather see the aftermath and the lead up to it. And so I thought they did a really good job of doing that with Daemon kind of like killing off some last people. It's like there's tons of bodies and mud on the ground. Oscar's bloody. Like, they didn't have to show us much for you to feel the scale. And I respect their ability to do that, much like how they did it for the Bracken Blackwood
the Battle
fight.
of the Burning Mill. Yeah,
similar to how they did that. And again, you can only do so much of it before your viewers are like, this is a cop-out, and get bothered by it. But I think this was elegantly done.
You got to do that with some of the battles. Yeah, some of them you can't. We knew going into this TV show that there's no way they're doing every battle, especially not all the Riverlands battles, because there's a lot of them. So, yeah, I totally agree with you there, Shay. 100,000%. One last comment on the nature of men becoming beasts and the type of beast they become. We talked about Sheep Stealer before. I mean, that's a good example. This is you lose your higher brain functions the more you become bestial, and Sheep Stealer didn't really have higher brain function in the first place. But there is still a way. You can always go a little farther down. You can always get a little more afraid, a little more violent, and then by contrast, you can undo that and get a little calm.
Hey, for all you know, Sheep Stealer wants to work on his algebra. And this dragon rider's distracting him.
There's a lot of sheep math. Yeah, just counting sheep. That's a thing. People do at night. Yeah, all right, okay. A Song of Ice and Fire and Blood. That's right. Season 3 doesn't necessarily have the most characters, but it has the most locations, I think. I think the most of the characters have been spread out, which gives it more of a Song of Ice and Fire feel, that we're just changing locations more often, seeing more characters, but yet they're still very well tied together. Most every plot line was at least overlapped to something else that was very related to something else, if not multiple something else's. Obviously, the battle stuff was the most overlapping. Perhaps Daemon with the Winter Wolves and that was the least connected to everything else. But even that, obviously, you can see how it will later connect. Let's talk about Aegon and Larys. We talked about them a little bit early, but let's focus on them for a couple minutes here. Not a whole lot to say because it's a brief scene, but it's very meaningful. This basically picks up right where they left off. We start this subplot with the almost execution of Orwyle. So that's really where this kind of kicks off, but it quickly transitions to the escape here. Obviously, Aemon's assumptions were very flawed on why, it must have been the Maester. Why? Why did it have to be the Maester? Just because he's taking care of him?
I think that's
it's
why.
It's a reason to start there.
Yeah, he has the most access, but yeah.
It's not a reason.
If
but
he's
like
still there, it's like he probably didn't do it. Why would he stay?
Yeah. And I thought this was excellent writing because like you said, Sean, with the way that the Oscars not demand, but saying, no, we need to bury them, that communicated a lot. This did too, because while he asks for milk of the poppy, that's the first thing that happens is he asks for milk of the poppy. Well, if Orwell had been involved, there's no way he leaves without milk of the poppy. There's no way the physician forgets the pain medication for the guy who's constantly in need of it, right? That just tells you immediately he's not connected to this. So I think that's a great little subtle way of saying, indeed, Aemon did almost execute an innocent man. That was not just him protesting his innocence, because of course he's going to protest his innocence, even if he's not. Either way, he's going to say he's not involved. So
to be fair, there was a little Orwell did give Alicent passage to Dragonstone to talk to meet with Rhaenyra.
That's true. He didn't ask about that, but you're right.
Yeah, if Aemon knew about that, and that might be part of why Orwell was like, "Can I know what the charge is?" Because he didn't want to accidentally reveal something he had done if Aemon didn't actually know.
He's like, "I didn't mean to let her." Yeah,
aware that Loras took Aegon. It's possible he was aware of that. But knew he didn't do
point.
that, but maybe Aemon called him for the other thing. Anyway,
that's a good point. I didn't think of that. Yeah, you're right. So Larys has told Aemon that Rhaenyra, or tells him that Aemon and Rhaenyra will tear each other apart. You know, this is something they discussed at the end of last season, that he can be the rebuilder, the realm's delight. In that moment, he was on his drugs, so he was feeling a little more optimistic. Now he's on the road. He's sweating, as you pointed out earlier. This is evidence of both his pain and his withdrawal, perhaps. So it's pretty cool that these details are lining up. While Cole is describing how Rook's Rest impacted him, we have overlap here because Aegon returns to the site of his burning. Those are the men of House Staunton. Lord Staunton rules Rook's Rest. And so even though it isn't clear, you're told here, if you're paying close attention, that Rook's Rest was retaken by the Blacks off screen. That is also how it happens in the books. Even though this guard is just seems ready to kill people at the drop of a hat, like he just wants to kill people, like that's his goal here. I appreciate that he comes off as tired. He's not sympathetic at all. But he's been forced into this choice like everybody else. He's like, okay, we're for the Blacks. Okay, we got destroyed. Now we're for the Greens. Oh, now we're back for the Black. Where whiplash, right? Like, how are these common folks supposed to respond to being put on one side, then the other, then back to the other side? Like, what kind of energy are you going to have for this cause? You know, we're loyalists to, we switched. Yeah, you just can't fire yourself up for that.
I like how dirty that actor was. You know, you can tell he's been on the road marching. He looked almost ashy.
You know, he looks familiar to me. I know. I meant to look that guy up. I don't know who that guy is, but
tell us on Friday.
Yeah, I'll do that. Yeah. So. But also, he can't get that fired up about Queen Rhaenyra. He's never seen her rule. He has no idea what kind of ruler she is. Maybe she'll be great. Maybe she'll suck, though. He's got to act on her behalf without even knowing what kind of person she is. Larys is very interesting here. As usual, he's just cold. Ice in his veins. He tells them that killing them on the spot is a mistake. He's telling the truth about that, mostly. Yes, it's true that turning them in alive is the correct decision, because the realm, you need to see they need to be displayed before the realm is taken. You have to be able to prove it, right? And you don't want if the head rots, right? It's not going to look like him anymore. It can be faked. It's got to look real. You got to be able to prove it. Also, you can negotiate. You can make the other side stand down. Now, that wouldn't actually work here, but in theory it would. You'd say, look, we have your king. You have to surrender like a game of chess. Aemon, of course, wouldn't agree to that, but you might expect that is a thing that would sometimes work. Alan clarified this for us. He said to his father, Aemon One-Eye seems like the sort who would sooner let it all burn than abandon the throne. So it wouldn't work on Aemon, but still, capturing him alive is the smarter play.
There are angles beyond Aemon. There's still some influence or potential that Alicent could help or whatever, you know.
Now, he also is clever to not reveal option 2, which is, hey, you guys can also take us back to King's Landing where Aemon will reward you, but that's not what he wants, of course. So he doesn't even mention that. So the officer says they'll take ship at Duskendale for Dragonstone. We can already see how this might go awry, something for the preview episode, but Sean, keep that in mind, and the rest of you. Rhaenyra has already commanded that they take King's Landing in 2 days' time. obviously that timeline could be thrown off based on what just happened in the battle, but it could easily be that she's not there when they get to Dragonstone, assuming they even do. So yeah, the potential
will be there. They'll still accept the prisoner.
Someone will be there. Yes,
they might just take everyone prisoner and wait for Rhaenyra to get back to decide who to reward and who to punish or how. One thought I had here. I thought about this scene a good bit. At first, how quickly Loras is like, actually, he's the king. Oh, look, here's his crown. I don't know that was Loras like on the spot coming up with that. I think he had a contingency. Like if we get captured, I'm just going to tell him who he is.
Absolutely. He thought about it ahead of time. You're right.
Through, and depending on who they get captured by, what the circumstances, I think he's shown himself many times to be very foresightful. And I'm sure he had a contingency for being captured.
Yeah, I 1,000% agree. What else is he going to do? Think about their plans and how to get away with all this. Like, especially in that moment, he knows that right then they're passing through enemy lands. He's like, this is not a good place to be right now. So yeah, there's a lot to be worried about, but he's just focused on getting through it. And I can
imagine some of the things like Milk of the Poppy. I can imagine him possibly he could have got it, but he's like, no, I don't want Aegon on that. I want his mind sharp. I need to turn him around. I need to mold. But also, I can imagine he did get some Milk of the Poppy, but he's just holding out. It might be a way to manipulate Aegon later on. I can see all kinds of angles. I can also imagine he wanted to get it and just really couldn't. He might have only had a small window to get him through some corridor or onto some wagon or whatever.
It's a controlled substance. They keep it, behind the counter at the pharmacy.
That's right.
I've had these images on screen of Aegon and Larys when they're talking over each other, how like matter of fact and calm Larys is, and how like increasingly upset and heated Aegon gets.
That's why I said ice in his veins, because that dude's got fire in his. Yeah.
It was a great sequence, very funny, very well acted. I thought.
Well, what can you do when he pulls the crown out? Like Aegon's got like, okay, I can't. I got nothing I can say now.
That was hysterical when he goes, here's the crown. Here it is,
crown. Yeah. Like, oh, dang it, trump card. Yeah. Get to it. You got me. Let's move on to Aemond and Alicent. No longer a tale of just mother and son, if it ever was. Yikes. The Targaryens are indeed a savage race. In case y'all missed that, that's a Lord Ormond quote from the trailer. Savage. Yes, incest. And of course, the house that would most be keen on that sort of thing is the Hightowers, because they're champions of the faith, so to speak, and incest is extremely abominable to them, more so than most. So Alicent's plans were in ruin. She's only gone a couple of days. She managed to lie her way out of being caught by Aemond. But she expected Aemond to be gone by the time she was back and Aegon to still be in bed. And the opposite happened. Aemond was still there and Aegon was gone. And she's like, oh my God, I just told Rhaenyra, I told her to believe me. And I was sincere. But like, holy crap, everything went bad while I was gone. Aemond wasn't just sitting the throne. He's calling himself king and telling people that Aegon abdicated. But she didn't give up. I like that. She keeps working on it. She schemes. She takes that letter. She writes a letter to Lord Ormond. We'll talk about that in a second. And then sets to convincing Aemond to go to Harrenhal after all. And she does this in a way that's similar to a lot of what we've seen throughout A Game of Thrones, A Song of Ice and Fire and other things, is if you need someone who's a warrior type, who's a little bit insecure to do something, you just talk about fear. She starts off by saying, oh, I know you're afraid, but he's like, I'm not afraid, and then he walks away, and then she's like, the line is said earlier about fear, and he reacts the same way. So this time she's like, you're so courageous. Like, she flips it, and then he just like, it's like the thing he wanted to hear more than anything in the world. He wanted to hear it so badly that he just goes full incest. Well, not full incest. Thankfully, that's not full incest. It's completely incestuous, but full incest would be, worse than.
There's three things that he most wanted to hear, and she said those things too.
Yes.
You should have been king. If only you had been born first. Maybe one
You're right.
year it wasn't, she was saying all the things he wanted to say. And even the fear angle, that was she got from Helena. Helena gave her that insight that Aegon, Alicent was very cunning there. And I will say, I thought it was a really good moment, maybe even could have been included in favorite moments, or my little like nuanced moments that I was listing, when she first came in and they're like, the king wants to see you. And they wouldn't even let her go to her chamber first. No, right now, let's just go see the king. And she goes in and it's Aemon there. There's a bit of like, one angle I could see here is that, oh, I can't manipulate Aemon as well as I can manipulate Aegon. This might be, not only the like, oh God, this is so against the plan I was setting up, but he's going to be harder to deal with. But I still think in a way, Aemon might be easier to deal with because Aegon maybe is easier to manipulate, but Aegon is also more likely to do something random and unpredictable. Aegon at least understands logic. Does that make sense? I think she can have a logical conversation with him. Now, she might have to manipulate his emotions or feed him false information or whatever, but at least she can go through a logical conversation with him. Whereas Aegon, that's difficult. And even once you do that, he might get drunk and fly off and do something else that, Aemon is a little more, for lack of a better word, predictable. So I think that she just needed to figure out what and how to say it to him and that she could do it. And she was right. She did figure it out and she did it.
I think that's accurate. I think there's also an element where Alicent has kind of given up on Aegon. And she maybe hadn't at this point given up on Aemon to the same level, But I think after this kiss, I think she's realized, no, both of these sons are a lost cause. I'm very disgusted, disturbed by this. And Olivia Cook said in an interview that she thought Alicent had kind of felt this undercurrent for years, that there was like an unnatural or an unhealthy fixation that Aemon had on her. And so I think it's like confirmed something she's already been kind of worried about. And it's scary because if Aemon's the king and he succeeds, like, you don't have a choice but to be his concubine. Like, what, you know what I mean?
Or whatever creepy thing he has in mind. She doesn't know, but she doesn't want it, whatever it is.
Exactly. So she's very disturbed. So I think now she would wipe her hands of Aemon too. I think that was kind of a moment where she's like, they both gotta go. Right? Like, I don't know. I think
so.
Aegon, because she told.
Yeah, she's given up on him.
Rhaenyra, take the city, take his head. I mean, she wasn't quick to that decision. She was angling against it. But Rhaenyra's like, no, you have to make a sacrifice. You can't just get everything you want. I have to take Aegon's head. And Alicent gave in. But now Alice is like, oh God, please take Aemon's head also. Too, you see little moments that at first you don't think anything of. But it's like I was saying, they put everything in there for a reason. There were those moments when she's appealing to him and sweet talking to him. And at one point she puts her hand on his arm. She takes his hand and it's just a mother and her son. But watch that again. And you're like, the son's getting turned on. You know what I mean? Like she doesn't be doing this, but it's happening. And she doesn't realize till the moment he kisses her, like, oh God, what is happening here?
I think turned on is the wrong word I would use for that. Like, I think he is feeling hope that his mother could actually love him the way he wants her to love him. I don't know that I think he exactly like had a sexual stirring and like got an erection. You know what I mean? But I think he felt hope that she could be his lover. He felt some hope there, right? That's what I took from that.
Especially
the spark was there for him.
Yeah. And again, I'm not trying to justify this, of course, but just think about what Aemon has been through. His brother married his sister. His uncle married his cousin. He's younger now than Viserys was when he married Alicent. Like these sorts of very unusual. The woman he lost his virginity to is a woman he's still going back to, quote unquote, currently. At the last episode of last season or whatever. Like his romantic, sexual, family relationships are all weird and intertwined. So.
And he doesn't think they're weird, though, right? That's to him, they're
right. Yeah,
that's his normal.
Right,
yeah.
What is normal
he wishes he could have married Helena.
To him than it does to us or Alicent or anyone else.
Yeah. So I thought that was really effective. I agree with you. Like she really manipulated him quite effectively, and maybe you could put it another way. Like Aegon may have more ways to be manipulated, but the few ways that work on Aemon are very, very effective because he feels them so deeply. He has fewer weaknesses, but they're very strong.
But I think those weaknesses will lead to longer term consequences for her if she has to face them.
Yeah, I agree.
Is what she's realizing in that kiss. And then I love her acting there, like the single tear that goes down her cheek there.
Yeah, so
when
good.
she realizes
her face while he's doing it, like it's so like so many things, none of them good, but except for the acting, which was great. Yeah, and it works so well, so quickly. He looks at her and he's like, after it's done, the kiss, that is, he says, I will, have a feast in your honor as my uncle's head looks down from a spike. So she's like, at least I've got him, convinced him to go. Damn. That was a bigger price than I was expecting to pay for it, but woo. And then she goes further. This actually happens afterwards. We're going to talk about Alicent and Helena here, which actually this scene happens first. She asks Helena if she knew about Aegon leaving. Helena doesn't answer. She just says, you're afraid, and then she says, Aemon forgot fear when she claimed Vhagar, but he remembers it now. That was a great line. And she says it so matter-of-factly, and which the fact that she says it at all and the fact that she says it's the way she does, I think makes Alicent kind of start. First, she's like, that's a really good insight, but it's also scary. Because Aemond is more dangerous when he's afraid, as Orwyle might tell you. And then, but she also shows how she has this really strong emotional mind, and really she's emotionally intelligent in so many ways. But then when it comes to subterfuge, she's like, take this message. This message is from the king. And Helena just tries to blow the game like, the king? Like, that's not from the king. You wrote that, and Alicent just plays it off like, with haste, Sir Soren, but she signs Aemon's name to it and says it's from him. So yeah, it's a dangerous game there. She's, which is another sign that she's given up on Aemond even, but this happens actually before that scene. So,
a couple quick notes on that, if I may.
Yeah.
I saw the big AT in the letter at first and thought, oh, she's got, maybe plausible deniability. That could be Alicent Targaryen or Aemon Targaryen. But then I paused it and it's like, no, Aemon Targaryen first of his name is how it's signed. So yeah, clear forgery.
Yep.
Maybe we'll get to it, but I want to say now when Ormond gets that letter, I thought it was odd, again, trying to pay attention to every little thing they show us, that, there was like a smudge on it, which, okay, of course, it's just some messenger running through the woods with it. But they took a second moment to show us that smudge and for Ormond to even seem to take note of it. I wonder what that was about.
I'm very curious about that too. And I think I think it's partly, there's probably more to it, but there's part of it is that this is a very cunning, suspicious individual. He is both very tricky and thus expects other people to be tricky. And so little things like this, I think, to use a joke that I had prepared in advance, because he's a smells guy. Apparently something smells off about this.
He smells a lie.
He smells a lie.
Yeah,
he smells a lie.
Like Dolph Lundgren can smell crime.
He can smell crime.
He's like Dolph Lundgren in that movie where he can smell crime. We all know that one. But I have another take on, the smell thing, obviously, and that's why he's got his little pomander to the little ball. The scent orb is called a pomander, and that's why he smells there, because he's, fastidious and keeps clean and hasn't been all out in the muck and the smell. And this guy clearly reeks. He's raced there in a hurry. He's very dirty. He definitely smells.
That's Sir Soren's fastest rider. I mean, he's running so quickly to get there.
But that's why I think, it's meant for us, the viewer, to feel that he's suspicious. But I think in world, he looks at his hands because he's a clean guy, and this note got his hands dirty. He touched
right about that
dirt
too.
There. Right? Which is, he's very clean. And so I don't think he's looking at it what is this strange substance? This is a mystery I have to solve. I think he is suspicious. We're meant to feel that suspicion. And he's also fastidious and does not want muck on him.
He's like the germaphobe in the world that doesn't understand germs. Yeah, he just wants to be clean and proper and pure, and that's consistent with a very churchy upbringing and a very powerful man.
Last night, I think
he's better.
I think it was Dom who said he gives off Dennis Reynolds vibes.
Definitely gives off Dennis Reynolds vibes.
Could be Dennis Reynolds.
Bathe her and bring her. She's, you will feel my purity. Yeah. You'll feel my power. Yes. A little more about Alicent real quick though, and Helena before we talk a little more about that scene, which is our last scene to discuss. She asks, it's interesting what isn't said in that scene too, because she asked, did you know Hagon was going to leave or whatever? Of course she didn't. But she hasn't told her mother that she dreamt of Aemon's death, which she did tell Aemon that at the end of last season. And she also didn't tell her mother that Aemon again tried to recruit her to go to war, which Alicent stepped in the middle of that very forcefully and was like, not like this, Aemon. Like it's the loudest she's ever been with him, and was forceful and aggressive, and he backed off, but then he just tried again when Alicent wasn't around. He still tried to recruit her. And that's when she tells him that, I saw you die at the God's Eye or whatever.
Well, she tells him that she saw him burn Aegon.
Oh, and yeah. Oh, well, she said that too. Right. Which is.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And he's like, I could have you killed. And she's like, it won't matter.
Yeah.
You're dead anyway. It doesn't matter. Do whatever you want. You're dead anyway.
Which is interesting.
That's why he's scared.
So, Sean, what does that tell you? Do you think that, like, now we have this ambush set up at the Isle of Faces? Is that like, she just said that he's going to die at the God's Eye? Is that accurate? Is that now? Or, ooh.
Well, yeah, like, the thing, we've talked about this a million times. Yeah, he dies at the God's Eye when he's 68 years old and has 4 grandkids. That's a possibility.
That's a good point.
It seems more likely in this moment he's going to die in battle with the dragon, but still, is it going to happen in next week or in 4 years? Is it going to happen against some future usurper or against Daemon? I don't know.
So you ask Aziz, why does Helena doesn't mention the dream to her? Rather than ask, you say she doesn't.
I mean, she doesn't normally do that.
Yeah.
But,
my question is, do we think that when Helena was much younger, she did bring up a dream to her mother, and her mother was very
I think so.
Yeah.
We saw the way she was just quoting things when she was a younger, the younger version of her. She would just say prophecies, and Alicent would ignore it. Yeah,
exactly. So I think she just, was ignored. Alicent said, "Stop doing that. You're not." She
just thought she was being autistic or something.
Yeah,
for lack of a better word, that's maybe not the right way to put it.
I think that's basically it. So I think, of course, she's not going to try to reach her mother again. She's probably tried many times as a teen.
So I said there was one more section. There's actually 2, both of which we've already touched on. So these should go. We've got some setup done here already. The Isle of Faces we've talked about somewhat. That's the one I forgot. We haven't completely gone through. It was a little bit of a surprise, and apparently part of the surprise here is it wasn't the Isle of Faces. It was on the shore near Harrenhal. So there we go. There's one thing we worked through during the episode. But either way, it's a sensible idea to ambush Vhagar on his way to Harrenhal. They know he's going there. Alicent told Rhaenyra that, and she was sincere, even though things got in the way of that. These conversations about social status, rank, and entitlement are really important. And they're building on the scenes from last season at dinner, where Ulf was kind of irritating / embarrassing some of the others, while also kind of revealing the lack of ability to deal with regular folk that Rhaenyra and her people have. They just don't have that in their corner as an expertise. No one's good at that. No one's experienced that for the most part. It's a real problem. It could be a bigger problem later, but for now it's just a problem maybe brewing amongst these dragon seeds, or at least with Ulf.
Did you notice at the beginning here, a Silverwing looking on her her rider who's sad and upset right there?
She was looking at you. She's totally being protective there.
Yeah,
I like that.
I think it's very sweet.
Yeah, she really likes her rider more than perhaps any of the other dragons. She's protective, I think. So
she just wants a castle.
So. Yeah, and you were right, Ashay, to point to how his story was really good. It was really meaningful, and it was also kind of neat that it's like the King's Blood thing, and how that's kind of a cool consistency that we saw that from like Melisandre, who identified the King's Blood, and it's like, oh, this red priest. Once again, it was a red priest identifying that.
And Varys.
Yeah.
Bringing it up.
You're right. Yeah, Varys is another good example.
Sorcerer using his blood, that type of thing.
You're right. It's well established in this world.
They kind of slow roll the reveal that it's this King's Blood thing, because they bring up there's a priest from Essos, and he first is talking about the abuse of it all, and you're like, oh no, this was magically oriented more than it seems at first.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's neat too how he just that slid into his reality. He's like, I like that story. I didn't believe that story, but I kind of liked it, and I thought it was a good persona for me to take on. I could sell that too. He sold it to me. I can sell that story that I'm a dragon seed to others. Yeah, I'll just go with that. Yeah. And then he, as he put it, the Red Sea word was right about it, and then we use a classic George R.R. Martin technique of someone else is about to reveal something very interesting or intriguing or mysterious, and we get interrupted. not George R. Martin, not nearly the only person to use that trick, but we are all very familiar with it by now if we've read his works. And, well, right in line with that. So we'll have some more to say about the scene in general in the preview episode, but
I'll say Kieran Bew has talked about his heritage in behind the scenes stuff. We're not going to talk about it right here because it is extra material, but we'll talk about it more on Friday. And he loves to talk about his heritage in all of his interviews, which I like too.
Can I stick one thing in here about Ulf?
Yeah.
If you remember last season, that dinner scene when he was being kind of a jerk at dinner. And they were talking about, facing Vhagar, and also like, I'll take him on myself. Silver wings a goer.
Love that.
And what's that?
She's a goer. I love that. She's a goer.
She's a goer. We just quoted that the other day. Not so brave now.
But Adam was like, and he's like, unless you're scared. And Adam's like, we'll see. There'll be a chance to see who will prove their bravery. And so far, Ulf is failing.
Right. You're right. Now maybe I don't think it was an intentional parallel to Dunk, having his first scene when pooping over a tree or whatever, really part of his first scene. But we have the second trip to this spot in this episode is Ulf is pooping over a tree. He looks behind him because he hears a sound, and he turns back and there's the black goat.
I'll get to that image. Can I say the exact quote I didn't have earlier?
Which one?
Probably one of my favorite quotes in the whole episode, I think.
Okay.
Wished for death more days than I wished to live. Which is a very short line, but I think hits extremely, extremely hard. I think it's this, a beautiful line, heartbreaking line. And I just wanted to highlight it because I didn't have the exact quote earlier just the idea. More
Ulf isn't even worthy of that line.
Okay, Sean. Okay.
So I'm gonna rag on Ulf as much as I prop up Kristen Cole.
You like Braun, so you can just, be a hypocrite.
Kristen Cole's the Shakespearean villain here. Stop that, Ulf. You're supposed to be boorish and So it's well-earned conflict about where they should be. They talk about it, and I agree that they each have a different perspective. Ulf is just freaked out. He doesn't like where he's at, and that's a good reason for him to be like, why are we still here? Vhagar's not here. That's a good reason to leave.
They're city folk.
Yeah, that too. Good point. Hugh is worried that they've fallen into a trap of their own, not one that they're going to get killed in, but one that Rhaenyra has made a strategic mistake, that Aemond is attacking Dragonstone. The fact that he's not here should worry them that he's attacked Dragonstone in their absence. A reasonable point. No way for them to verify that or, to be sure, but it's a reasonable point. Whereas Adam is just like, we were given a task, we should hold to it. So they each have different opinions that kind of mesh together. And then Ulf sees the black goat, which we saw that goat in Harrenhal last season. Didn't know it was directly related to Alice. Now we have more of a direct connection between the goat and Alice.
Alice is a skin changer. She has to be this goat is Alice.
That's her goat.
Yeah, right?
Yeah, she's a skin changer. Yeah, that's not a stretch at all to be a skin changer, given everything else she's done.
Yeah, we theorized it, and to me, this is as good as confirmation as I could get.
She already did the owl thing, so
exactly.
So we have the goat, and that was a clue that we were about to see her. I think it was a cool way to bring her into the scene before we saw her.
Skin changed into 3 hounds, or 100 bats.
So that was pretty cool. This is going to be he wants to leave. Ulf is like, I'm leaving, and what are you going to tell the queen, that you're Craven? Well, now he's going to tell them, Rhaenyra, that he saw a witch? What? Is she going to believe that? That's the dog ate my homework level of believability there. What? A witch? Are you kidding me? And Adam and Hugh will be like, well, no, it really was a witch. And she's just, is that going to make her, oh, okay, now I believe Ulf, or she's just going to think they're lying too, she's not exactly going to be in her best state of mind, I don't think either, So I think that's interesting setup for how this conflict escalates with Rhaenyra, because they were given a task and it looks like they're going to leave right when Aemond actually does come there.
Well, what's interesting is if they talk to Daemon, he'd be like, I met a witch there too.
You meet that long-haired black
witch?
Alice? Yeah, with the black hair. And
Daemon tells that to Rhaenyra right after Rhaenyra has Ulf executed. She's like, oh. What makes sense to me, I don't know what they're going to do, but it's if I was one of the 3, I would say either one of us should go back and check on what's going on, or one stay here and two go back and check what's going on. You know, you can compromise the orders.
Yeah, that would make sense.
Like,
and Ulf was so eager to leave.
Vhagar's not here. We're supposed to be waiting for him. Like seriously, what if 5 years go by? Do we keep waiting for how? There's gonna be some limit in how long she expected us to wait. Someone could go back and see what's going on, you know. To
be fair, too, like, this was supposed to happen. Like, it's not like, Rhaenyra didn't tell them, like, oh, he'll eventually show up. No, the time frame was pretty narrow. It was like, he should be there in 2 days. Yeah, so, like, it's been several, and they're like, this is, so
that's
it's not
why
just
she told Ormond in that letter to wait 3 days.
Yes.
That'll be past the time that she's supposed to come to King's Landing.
Absolutely. So it's all, this is, again, I love how well the plots are interconnected and how so many of them also connect to the battle, which is so hard to do. So really well done. So now it's our last section, the Hightower host. While the dragon seeds are waiting for Aemond is waiting for Lord Ormond until Alicent convinces him otherwise, not telling Aemond that she's written a letter in his name, right? Remember, Aemond just said we just need to bide our time. And so Alicent's like, let me make that window a little longer, while also convincing you to leave. So this is the Lord of Oldtown. This is Otto's nephew. He's the son of the Lord Hobert that we originally saw bend the knee back in season 1, episode 1. We're told he has 15,000 men. He has Daeron Targaryen, who is Alicent's third son. We see the dragon. We see his dragon, Tessarion. We don't know if we see Daeron. Is that Daeron? Does he have red hair for some reason?
The young guy in green?
Right, yeah, in the book, we know that Daeron's his squire. And that guy looks like a squire. He's doing squirely things. Here's
Alicent
the thing
has red hair. Gawain has red hair.
Yeah, so he could be a Hightower. He could be a Targaryen with some Hightower colored hair.
I just mean like Alicent's son could have red hair.
Yes.
Yeah. I first had the thought that it's weird they're not showing Daeron. Then I started thinking, oh, wait, that's got to be Daeron.
But I'm not sure that it's Daeron, right? Like, that's weird because, you know, the thing is, they intentionally confuse us. He tells, okay, we'll skip ahead and then come back to the rest of the scene. But what he does is he smells his pomander thing. Good job on O'Shea looking that thing up. He does his smelling thing because he's, you know, hoity-toity and has to be, you know, he just has to have his smells.
I mean, honestly, if I was him, I think if there was the technology for me to have a good smelling thing with me, I'm not.
Again, I'm just saying. Yeah,
he is hoity-toity, but I admire that trait because it reeks everywhere.
But he's using it.
I'm not allowed to have bad smells. I'm not allowed.
He's using it so rudely. Like he's obviously like using it because he's like, you smell like.
Yeah, that guy feels it. You could like that guy like looks like uncertain.
I'm sorry, but like I'm trying to deliver an urgent message here, bro.
Important thing.
So anyway. Back to the Daeron thing. The redheads, the thing about they really intentionally threw a monkey wrench at us. He goes, give this guy a tent. He tells this redheaded person, give the messenger a tent and, you know, a bath or whatever. He says, yes, sire. That sire is never used except to refer to a king, that you're speaking to your king. Yes, sire has other uses in terms of like, I sired that person or he is my sire, but you don't refer to the person as the title sire except when referring to a king. I checked. I looked it up in all the books. I double checked that. That's the only way it comes. So this is intentionally used to throw us off. But still, why call him sire, though? There's other ways to throw us off. It's still odd to me that calling him sire. Because, like, you don't even call it like that would be, you could say, well, that makes you think he's his father. But no one says that. No one calls their father sire to their face like that.
He is basically his father if he's been living with him for this long. This is the closest to a parental father figure that this kid has.
But that's what I'm saying.
Maybe Ormond is just weird.
He wouldn't call him sire in those circumstances, though.
You will only call me sire.
Yeah, so maybe Ormond is that hoity-toity as you will call me sire. Yeah. I'm sorry, Sean, what did you say?
Yeah, maybe the Ormond is just weird. Maybe he has some weird fixation or custom or something and is expecting people to do something different. He has other things that he seems to be doing different than others, so maybe that's another one.
Yeah. So so other than this potential switching or hiding of Daeron in plain sight here, let's talk about what else happens in this scene. The level of intrigue here, I think, is going to be extremely heightened as to what's in the books. The book version of this plot line, just generally speaking, is full of plots that we don't get a lot of access to because they're implied and only a few of them are out in the open. And that's kind of how it has to be because this is a maesterly history. How are the maesters going to know what the best schemers in the entire game are thinking? There's just no way to communicate that given the way this narrative is delivered to us. You need a narrator for things like that, and we don't get that. So the show has to be more direct with these things because we're seeing these we're seeing these schemers in the midst of scheming. The TV show, the original show, did this too. We got to see a lot closer to what Varys and Littlefinger were doing rather than in the books. You see more like the results of what they're doing. You see their influence at a distance. It's a little less specific. The clues are more spread out. Here we have someone who, in the book, is definitely a schemer, but like what schemes he engaged in, what exactly he did, it's really hard to tell. So I'm looking forward to getting closer to what exactly he was doing, their version of the types of schemes he's running. Because he is clearly a schemy guy. The way they discuss this is really clever too and interesting. Like he says, the weather, he says, what's the weather look like, Bold John? And he's not using it as, he's not talking about the weather as in the whether it's going to rain. He's like talking about the political climate in the capital. He says, what is the weather? He says, what's the weather look like, Bold John? And John says, raining piss and shit from the looks of the messenger. Right? Like that wasn't literal piss and shit. It's the fact that he had to hurry and that something's a problem, and they're interpreting the state of events based on the dynamics of the delivery of this message, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, if that was a clean, groomed, armored knight on a horse with 3 in his retinue, that's different than this one scrubby, filthy, smelly guy showing up. That's a different state of message being delivered, you know?
Yes, well said. And also, this character, I think, is poised, probably, to step in to be the main intriguer type guy, because Larry Strong was that guy before, but Larry Strong is out of the capital. He can't do that. He has to be talking his way out of problems rather than talking other people into them. For the time being, Laris's political reach is limited. He can't, on the run, there's just almost so much he can do. This guy is not only not on the run, he was just told to sit still. So not much else for him to do but scheme and look for things that smell good. Bold John Roxton here, definitely a book character. He says nice and bluntly. We have a very subtle character and a very blunt character. So I think it's a very interesting dynamic that they're sort of setting up here. He says, so Aegon's dead then. Very blunt and straightforward. Very enigmatically, Ormond responds, one king is as good as another. What does he mean by that? Good for what? Just for them to be on the winning side?
Or as well, Daeron could be king one day is what I take from that.
I think you might be right.
Like, we have a king claimant right here that we know is decent and, not Aegon or Aemond, an incest lover, whatever. What does he say about the Targaryens? A savage race?
The Targaryens are a savage race.
This is not a savage Targaryen, right?
Better groomed and better protected and has a dragon and I wonder who he might make his hand if he became king.
Yes, who could he be thinking of? Yes. So,
you know what? I didn't even consider this before, but Daeron maybe on some level, whether to the audience or to the people in this host here, being hidden, his identity might be hidden. He might have made him his squire just so he doesn't become a target of something, Right, like people in the army would know who he is, but you're right, on the outside, like an assassin. Well, which that ground has been broken. We've already had an assassination, blood and cheese, right? So that's and this is a gun, like I said, this is a cunning man who thinks everyone else is cunning. So he also described himself, or maybe not, he said something along the lines of like, the patient prey gets its foe or something like that.
Yeah,
right?
So he's thinking about all the different moves other players have made, and that's what he knows about them. So he doesn't know a lot of these people personally. He knows what they've done, and that's how he's judging what might happen next, which I think is a really good way to do it, a really good way to write him. And this character, I'm more excited about this character than I expected to be.
Can I say?
Yeah, absolutely.
About Daeron, I think a strong clue about the identity and this being Daeron is the actor playing this kid is named Benjamin Evan Ainsworth, okay? This kid is going to be Link in the new Legend of Zelda. So I think it's more likely that the major character of Daeron is played by the future Link from Legend of Zelda than it is that some squire is Link.
Pretty good meta evidence there, I'd say.
That's just like a little meta level thing, because I think it could go either way. I think this kid could be a decoy, and there's a real Daron that does not look like this, you know what I mean? Or vice versa, right?
Absolutely,
but I'm leaning that this is Daron. My question is, does he naturally have red hair, or did they dye his hair? I think naturally, because I like the idea that Alicent had a kid that looked like her, that they sent that kid away because it doesn't look great when you're like criticizing Rhaenyra for this when you have a non-Targaryen kid, and because it's for people who want to theorize that Alicent had a child with Cole, this is your potential for that.
Yeah, which of course that would make it hard to explain how he's a dragon rider, but not impossible.
Oh yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, not impossible, but you're right.
So again, I like
also, is he a dragon rider? That dragon's just sitting on the ground. He's not interacting with it. I don't know.
Well, we saw the dragon flying at the end of last season, but yeah, you're right. We don't know. Yeah, so it's an interesting bit of setup. Now, let's keep it on John Roxton for a second, if you could, Ashaya. I want to point out something. So, Sean, do you recognize this actor? I
don't think so.
This was Brasso from Andor. He was one of the bricklayer guy that kind of was one of the buddies.
I know exactly what you mean. Yeah.
Very, very opposite character here. Instead of a common man of the people fighting for the good of this guy's not that. There a meta reason here. He's a bully. You could already see how he's kind of a bully. He kind of menacingly stands in front of them in the messenger's way to keep him from going any further. Partly that's because he's like keeping the smell back, Also, you don't approach the Lord, you got to keep your distance, like I will hand the message and all that. But look at his sigil there. See those rings?
Yeah.
House Roxton's castle is called the Ring, making him Lord of the Ring. Yes, that is definitely George's Lord of the Rings fandom jumping in here.
Well, he's got a few too many rings in his sigil if he wants to be Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, those are way more than 7 rings right there. Is it 9? It is 9. Oh, it is 9 rings with 1 in the middle. So it is the 9 human rings with the 1. So that is, you could definitely see that interpret that as a Lord of the Rings vibe even more so. 9 rings? Look there, you can barely see the link going off like under the metal. See, there's 1, 2, 3. Oh, yeah.
I count like 11.
11?
I'm muted. I count like 11 rings.
All right. Well, maybe not
it's
that.
Way
anyway,
more than
whatever.
9. That's my point. It's more.
So both of these guys have Valyrian steel blades, by the way. They both do. So that's interesting as well.
Wait, which guys?
Lord Ormond and Bold John Roxton.
Lord Ormond, okay.
Yeah, Lord Ormond Hightower has the sword Vigilance next to his Pomander, that Ashaya looked up the name of that thing, his scent thing. And then Orphan Maker is the name of Bold John Roxton's Valyrian steel blade. So they both are quite well armed and fancy.
Also, Ormond has some spectacular Faith of the Seven armor. I don't know if you guys could see that clearly, but when I zoom in here, you can see on one side, you can see the mother is inlaid, and then, each other facet of the 7 is on the other side. You can't see all of them that clearly, except for the mother, but when he turns around here and I zoom in, you can see that it's also on the back, and so you can see each one is like probably mirrored back and forth. Well,
he wins the armor award for today.
He wins the supposedly very pious award, I guess. We'll see if he holds up. I don't know. Maybe he will put his money where his mouth is, and he's a generally lawful and decent guy. I don't know. I feel like
that would be a big surprise.
I feel like he's probably a hypocrite in some way.
Yeah, I think so too. I'd say it seems like he's when we talked about how Rhaenyra was like out of touch and wasn't raised around the people. This guy's from the Hightower. I mean, his whole thing, their whole vibe is out of touch, rich and out of touch, and literally high up in the sky. Like the Lord of Hightower, and currently in his Song of Ice and Fire, apparently hasn't come down to the ground in 10 years. So this is what Hightowers do. This guy fits very well in with that sort of lineage. He fits that vibe very well. Well, everybody, we've had a nice long opener to this intro, or this first episode. We had a lot to say, a lot to look forward to. Great start to the season. Can't wait to see where this ride takes us, and it's all the more fun to have you all along with us. There was a lot that we didn't have time for, like I said, both during, in between, and now here at the end. But there's plenty of season left. We'll work all those other discussions in where we can. A lot of them will be preview episodes on Friday. Like I said, 5 o'clock. Be there for our preview of episode 2. And of course, we will be back next Monday for another review of the second episode, which we will do all season long. Enjoy episode 2 and your rewatches of episode 1. Do you have any final thoughts, either of you? And let's also get those poll results up. Sean, anything to say?
I just want to point out my Pluribus shirt. I think it's a great show. I want to recommend it. And I'm also drinking my Magic Mind Green Machine Mountain Dew mix here.
Oh, didn't ask you about your drink. That's right. Well, better late than never on that one. The poll results, looks like Ashay is pasting them into the screen right now. It looks like best death went to Jace. 5% over Vermax. Third place, Scirocco. Fourth place, Tyland and Jason, looks like. Yeah, that's probably what we expected, I think. Yeah. That's probably the order I would rank it. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I was more heartbroken by Vermax's death, but I remain of the opinion that, like, these dragons are causing a lot more deaths. So, like, it would, in an ideal world, Vermax was not, like, a war machine, I guess. But Vermax is, so there's only, like, I can be heartbroken, but also, like, I don't know.
I'm very much with you, Shay. The idea that I feel worse for the dragons or animals in general because they don't have the choice to go to a farm or leave the war. You know what I mean? They're just thrust into this. They don't even necessarily understand that their lives are in danger by harpoons being fired. You know what I mean? They have less agency over their lives, so it's sadder for them to be put in danger and then die. But also, they are very destructive and. It's kind of why I picked Jace over Vermax, but it is. I always do feel sad.
I would vote for Tyland,
even a dragon. You know?
I would vote for Tyland, even though Aziz threw Jason in there, and I'm not sad for Jason, but
he dragged Tyland down like his armor.
I'll say best death because I was most shocked by Tyland and most satisfied by Jason dying. No, I was actually most satisfied by Scirocco dying after her freaking double crossing, whatever to her. She got what she deserved. Is all I. Yeah,
so I'll tell you, Sean, another good reason for you to eventually read Fire and Blood just to see the differences. Yeah, neither Scirocco Lohar or Jason Lannister die in that battle in the book.
Tyland.
Sorry, Tyland. Yeah, Jason Lannister definitely doesn't die in that battle. He does. Jason Lannister does die pretty much the same way in the book, but he's killed by different. He's killed a little differently.
Which isn't to say that they don't die. They might still still well die in the book.
Exactly, they may,
but maybe not in that exact circumstances. Is the point, right?
That's right.
Oh my God.
So, if I could, this has already been a long episode. I want to say that I've been torn on what side I'm on. I feel like I've leaned a little bit more on the green side, but basically both sides have awful people and good people, or good people doing bad things, and that But it's really seemed primed at the end of last season for the blacks to win. They just seem to have more resources and position and everything, and that seems to be getting chipped away at. You know what I mean? I did kind of anticipate the obvious thing is probably not going to be what happens.
Look,
I see a Casanova. I don't know if you could quite see that I have a jet.
Next to there. See, Casanova, meet Jet.
Half on my mouse. I can't quite even use my mouse right now.
We should let them have a call.
Shout out to Jenny of Cold Stone Creamery, who sends a super chat, says thanks for the stream and looking forward to the rest of the season. And thanks to you, Jenny, who provided in our Facebook group bingo cards, House of the Dragon bingo cards that we printed out for our party here. Huh?
Jenny of Cold Stone Creamery? No.
Yeah.
That's really who that's been this whole time? Not Cool Company is Jenny of Cold Stone Creamery?
Same
Lauren?
person.
Oh. Where did they say that?
In the email. Oh. So anyway, there's the rest of...
That was not them. They just said that was not... I don't know where you're getting that from.
I'm getting people crossed up.
I don't know where...
My bad.
I'm sorry.
You did. Oh, yeah. You responded. Jenny did just respond to our thread on Patreon about their party event. That's right. I'm getting that crossed up because I asked on Patreon what everybody was doing for their House of the Dragon watch party, or in general, whether you're watching it in a group or just what preparations you were. We got a lot of cool answers from patrons, and Jenny was one of those who responded. So yeah, I got that crossed up with the bingo thing. Well, thanks to Cool Company for sending out the bingo then. And proper attribution needs to be made.
Yeah, if you look on Instagram for Not Cool Company, you can find their Instagram where they share them. But yeah, it's House of the Dragon Season 3 bingo cards. And I'll note, these are bingo cards that you might not win bingo by the end of the season. You might be waiting until the next season. However,
you cross them off when they die. That's the thing. Yeah,
that's the thing. So we did that last night, which was great fun because we had people debating, like, well, do we cross off Thailand? Do we cross off Corlys? You know?
Yeah, wait and see, maybe. Yeah. For further listening or staying immersed in the book versions of this, at the very least, we have our Dance of the Dragon series with Radio Westeros. We have our Red Kraken episode and our Lion, the Kraken, and the Seahorse follow-up, which is it's a two-part episode, basically. We have our recent episodes on the Butcher's Ball and the Winter Wolves, and to stay immersed in TV land, we have our preview episode this Friday, which will feature this season on, where they do the thing that is like a full season preview that they've already released. It's at the end of the episode, and it's got basically trailer stuff for the rest of the season. So we'll add that to our discussion. Be plenty to say. It'll probably be our longest preview episode of the year, as we space things out more and get out all the things we need to say. It'll be easier to narrow things down a bit. Thanks so much, everybody. Really appreciate you hanging out with us, whether you're listening to this live or after the fact, whether you listen to it on YouTube, whether it's on Spotify or some other podcast platform. Help us spread the word and let your friends know and give us a rating. Thanks to anyone who supports us on Patreon. We very much appreciate that. That really is why we're able to do this full time. Thanks to looking forward to Brand's new intro for next week, and we are very happy with the one we already have that you all get to see for this episode. And of course, shout out to our good friend Michael Klarfeld, who has done so many of our maps and our original video intro that we use when we're not in TV season. On behalf of Sean and Ashea, I'm Aziz. Valar re-read us and Valar re-watch us.